Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boomer and Buddies. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. It's my co-host.
And I'm the buddy. Hi.
I was going to say Paddington Bear fan number 383.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. No, this is Geeky Geezers. Welcome. It's on a different night because yesterday, as you know, I was in a flood. And now we finally got to vacate the house. But unfortunately, there was still...
You weren't in a flood yesterday, but you were in a flood last year, and you're still...
We had to get everything out of the house. There just wasn't time to do a stream last night. I'm like, And right after I do my silly Easter stream, and I'm not even going to do a regular news thing. So then I asked Troy, he said he'd be willing to come on tonight. So how do I sound, by the way? Am I too echoey?
No, you actually sound pretty good.
All right. Okay, great. Welcome to Geeky Geezers.
Do you have a decent setup where you're at? I know you're coming to us remotely from an unsecured site.
Well, a friend of my, to be fair, a friend of my mother's generously, in fact, she's out of town at the moment. She let us use her house while the construction guys are tearing out and doing what they have to do with the house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hopefully remove the mold and get it safe for us to move back in, hopefully in a reasonable amount of time, but we'll see. But
was there a lot of
happening?
Was there a lot of visible black mold?
Some of it started creeping through one of our bathrooms. Yeah,
you would expect that, I suppose.
But like I said, I don't feel. I mean, I had something the other week. I don't think it was mold related. I think I just had a regular cold. But
sure.
Feeling better now. Ready to and look at everybody here. I'm going to say hi to the chat. By the way, what are you sipping on?
I'm just sipping on a black cherry sparkling water.
I have an unsweetened iced tea.
Oh, there you go. See, we got to take it easy during the week, right? We got to work the next day.
Yes, and I figured now I can finally have a nice cold iced tea because I have use of a normal sized fridge again. So,
well, we should show some. I'm sorry.
Sparkling cherry, something ciders.
Black cherry carbonated water.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, we should really show some love to the chat because Auditor Dread. He's making a big sacrifice to be here tonight. Missing WWF Monday Night Raw for this show.
Oh, they call it WWE right now. It's funny because I was trying to set up... well,
next year they're going to call it WWG, I think.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
What was funny was it was actually on the TV when I came back before I had to come out here because... I guess my mom's friend gets cable, so I was setting up a Heroku player, but she gets cable, and I saw Monday Night Raw, and I'm like, I haven't seen Monday Night Raw in ages.
Yeah,
I used to watch it all the time in the '90s. It's funny because I got into wrestling right when like WWF was kind of floundering, but then the Attitude Era started, and then all of a sudden it was all this insanity on Monday nights and other pay-per-view events like Stone Cold Steve Austin and the whole Triple H, all the The Rock, all the
You're saying a lot of names I've heard before.
This was sort of the WWF's second wind after they almost got destroyed by WCW because all the wrestlers were poached by Ted Turner, I think, and I think that's how the story goes. But then they decided we're just going to be as un-PC as possible. They could never get away with doing what they did back then. Now it's
well, they probably could if it was still pay-per-view. I mean,
Oh, they would get away with nutsoid stuff on the pay-per-view. I remember there was one match between Mankind and The Undertaker, and it was a steel cage match, and The Undertaker, I think he body slammed Mankind on top, or he did something where he threw Mankind through the steel cage, and Nick Foley, who's the wrestler that's his persona, Mankind,
sure,
I think he had a tooth poking up through his nose. That's how bad it was.
And
he still continued the match. That's
dedication. Holy crap. Oh, dear Lord.
But I do miss wrestling. Maybe I'll get back into it someday. I don't know how it is now, but I know they always go through different eras. Unleash the Geeky Geezers. They're the reason why we're all here.
Yeah, it's right, because, if we didn't show up, you'd be just, staring at a blank screen.
Or you'd be watching wrestling. There are worse ways to spend a Monday night.
I suppose. Yeah.
And I don't want to hear it's fake. It's a modern day circus. That's what it is. That's how I always looked at wrestling. Anyway, go ahead. You were saying that.
No, I was just saying hi to Connie. I was just saying hi to her over over on Deleted Scenes channel, and she's here now, so I was making the joke. Oh, long time no see.
Deleted Scenes was streaming on Monday? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did yesterday, but then he was like, I'm kind of becoming like the unofficial intro to Geeky Geezers, and since they're doing one tomorrow, I'm going to do one, so...
I'm sorry I missed it. I'll try to tune into it later.
Well, you wouldn't have known. You've kind of been out of it for the past, 36 hours or so.
It's been insane. I got like 4 hours sleep last night. And it was not only that, as we're trying to move everything out and, the storage, we have like one of the worst rainstorms we've had almost, I don't want to say since the flood, but it was a pretty bad rainstorm. And it's like thundering, lightning, crackling. I'm like, are you kidding me? We have to finally vacate. This is going on. But anyway, we're here now, and we'll have a crackling good time tonight, right? I don't know.
I think so. Sure.
Pulling stuff out of my butt right now. I'm catching up on my Cobra Kai when I can too, because we're gonna have to do.
How far along are you?
I'm on season 4 right now. We should do. Okay. You need to have a Friday night thing where we talk about Cobra Kai in preparation for the new season, maybe before the new season.
Do you know when the new season starts?
I think in the summer it's going to start. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into it. Yeah,
or
that sounds like a great
in the summer?
idea.
Or is it filming in the summer? I don't know.
I'll look into it, but yeah, it's a good idea.
Kreese.
I know.
Villain. Something tells me something's going to happen to him, though. I just have this feeling. It's like he's poking too much.
There's a bunch of things that happen to him. I mean, it's like a friggin' roller coaster. I mean, I could say one thing that one would say would be ruining for you, but there's stuff on either side of it that you still wouldn't see coming.
He's still one of the great villains. He is.
He is. And from everything I've heard, heck of a nice guy in real life.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of martial artists are. A lot of ones that play villains are fine. In fact, I remember Cigarette Smoking Man of the X-Files. I mean, not even him, but like Cigarette Smoking Man of the X-Files apparently is a very nice man if you meet him in real life.
Oh, I'm sure.
Plays such an evil man in the X-Files.
What about, oh, darn it. I'm drawing a blank on the character's name. The bad boy of karate.
Does he show up? I know it's spoiling, but does he show up?
Oh, did I ruin it for you? I'm sorry.
Does he show up? No, it's okay.
Yeah, he does.
Because there's a scene in it where
I can't tell you anything else, though, because now that I've ruined that for you, I don't want to ruin the other.
Well, there was a wonderful
twist.
line when Daniel's wife, she's like, do we have any more of these Cobra Kai guys in your past to worry about? And he says, no. Oh, wait, maybe. And I'm like, I thought, who could he think about? Oh, the bad boy of karate.
I'm sorry, I ruined it for you.
It's okay. It doesn't surprise me.
He's coming back. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
It is. Look, there is nothing about this. I could ruin the whole thing for you and tell you the whole story.
I'll still enjoy it,
and you would still enjoy it because it is just such a
the
great
old
ride.
movies, even though I know them.
I know. I'll tell you something else. I really feel like this show, Cobra Kai, this is kind of almost the good old days, isn't it? It's Cobra Kai in a lot of ways not only made me go back and watch those movies again, but it made me appreciate the third movie even more.
Let's do a. You want to do an impromptu Grotto Laser out? The Karate Kid trilogy. Why don't we do that?
Sure. But you know what? Let's real quick. Let's say hi to the rest of the chat because
Big Al presents. Thank you for popping by, Big Al.
Zootopia, good man. Good to see you.
You'll be on with Birdman and myself, I believe, this Wednesday. If it's still according to plan, we're going to do LA Confidential rewatch. So tune in for that.
Over on Deleted Scenes, Birdman said, because I said, make sure you subscribe to Soundtracks with Birdman, because this Wednesday is the watch party for LA Confidential. Maybe. Or maybe next week. Or sometime. And he goes, no, it's definitely going down this week like Bud Light stock.
In defense of Birdman, the week prior we were supposed to do it, he had a tornado warning. And then last week, unfortunately, I couldn't make it because we were...
It was all your fault.
It's not all my fault.
Even the weather's your fault.
It's natural.
You're the one who attracts these windstorms.
And I'm thankful Olive is doing okay, his dog. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if I haven't said a hi to you yet, welcome everybody. Hell in the Cell. That might have been the match where Mankind fell through. Yeah.
He said Mick Foley is the nicest guy. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. I
haven't watched wrestling since the aughts. I never got into wrestling. When I was a little kid, I went and saw some of the old timers that were on, the circuit, and I went with my dad and my grandfather. And it was my grandfather who told me, watch this. And the guy gets thrown out of the ring. He goes, watch him put his head underneath the ring. And he says, when he comes out, he's going to have blood coming down his head, his forehead. I said, how did you know that? He said, because they hide razor blades under there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm like, that's it. Yeah, no.
It shows up in that movie, The Wrestler, the great Darren Aronofsky movie about wrestling.
Is that the one with...
Mickey Rourke.
I was going to say Marissa Tomei, but yeah.
She's in it as well, yes. You get to see some...
She's definitely in that movie. She is definitely in that. All of her is in that
She's
movie.
a nice-looking woman, yes.
She really, really is.
Welcome, Daniel.
I didn't think it was the best casting for Aunt May, but I'm okay with it.
What I thought was funny, that was actually one of the parts I liked in that Avengers Civil War, whatever, was when you see Tony Stark is flirting with Aunt May. I thought that was funny.
Oh, yeah. Right? It's like, wow.
But let's see what's going on.
Matt Anui. Hi there.
Anui, welcome.
I didn't say hi to you. Auditor Dread. Saw you on the other channel. And, of course, Daniel Heron. Okay. I think we're caught up. If we missed you, say hi to us. Let us know we missed you because we don't want anyone to feel left out. You are all much, much beloved by us. But, yes.
Karate Kid.
So we've been going on and on about Cobra Kai. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of late to the game too, Boomer, because I heard everybody talking about it, and I'm like, well, I really like those movies, but now we're going to see a movie about, Johnny Lawrence, the bad guy. It's like, oh, and I was getting into that mindset of, oh, okay, they're flipping the script, and he's going to be the good guy, and Daniel's going to be the bad guy, and all the deconstructionist stuff. But as I'm watching the promos for it, there's the scene of that kid, Blue Beetle, whatever his name is. He's washing the windows.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, Sensei, is there a specific way you want me to wash these? I don't give a... And I started laughing. I'm like, well, it could be someone who just is kind of tongue-in-cheek, showing the other side. It could also be someone totally disrespecting the heritage. But I'll be honest with you, everyone that, on the YouTubes, from Tom Connors to, all the other channels, it's like, oh, this is so good. It really is worth, I'm eating it up and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, I'm going to have to see this thing. And so I did. I didn't subscribe to whatever channels they were on, so you know how I yo-he-hoed. But I'll have you know that as they've been released on DVD, I've been buying those suckers because I want them right up there on my shelf, right next to those
original
Karate Kid movies. Yeah, I've got them all,
and we should...
including the one that I haven't even watched, where I made a custom cover of it because it's not karate, it's the Kung Fu Kid.
Yeah, I think they even make a point in that movie, like you said, I'm not teaching karate, it's kung fu. It's
yeah.
Now let's talk about the Karate Kid movies. I am a fan. At least I was really trying to get into, and I have a bunch of Shaw Brothers, and I basically every Dragon Dynasty release that came out. There's a genre called wuxia, and it's what the Chinese called martial hero, and of course other Asian countries followed this as well, like Thailand and Korea and other things. But the idea of the martial hero, and Karate Kid, in my opinion, it's an American wuxia movie. It's an American martial hero movie.
Yeah.
And if when you watch it, you have this. I mean, I don't know how. You probably identified with Daniel LaRusso. I identified him because he's from Jersey, and you probably identified him because he's a
Italian. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My whole family. We'd point out, and it's funny because what's the kid's name that plays him? Oh
no, Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio, right.
Yes.
He also, when he went on he was in My Cousin Vinny, and his mannerisms, the way he talks and everything. My whole family is like, oh, I kids just like him. He's like your cousin Mikey, and stuff like. Yes, he is. He even kind of looks like him a little bit. I shot the clerk. Yeah.
Yes.
I could totally see my cousin Mike talking like that.
That's when you want to keep your mouth shut.
Well, yes. I mean, and that's the other thing too. You try to get a Dago to keep his mouth shut. What you got to do is hold his hands down.
Remember the whole thing? Anything you say can and will be used against you. That's what they're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he wasn't saying, he was saying, wait a minute, you're saying, what he was really wanting to say is, wait,
That's the
you're saying that,
important point to
you're saying
remember.
that
It
I shot the
can
cop?
and will be
Yeah.
used against you, even if it's not what you meant. See,
Yes, and it's not what he
that's
meant.
the thing. But anyway, yeah, back to
Karate Kid.
yeah. But the other thing too was, even though when Karate Kid first came out, you know, my parents didn't split up until I was like 16, and this came out in the 80s, so this was well before that. But my dad was a very much absentee type parent,
Right.
so when he moved out, I didn't notice a great deal of difference, to be honest with you. And so my mom always was kind of like a single mom, right? And so I very much could relate to his dynamic with his mom and all that kind of stuff.
Pushing the car because it wasn't, you had to push the car to get it to start.
And I've had to do that a couple times myself, absolutely. Never did a big move like that cross country, because that is the big adventure for him, right? Going from Jersey to what is it, SoCal?
Yeah, and of course you're going to be a fish out of water, the Northeast compared to the West Coast,
which he absolutely is. And honestly, what I was saying about my trepidation about Cobra Kai, because there'd been for years that internet meme that really Daniel was the bad guy, right? And I'm like, that's bullshit. And then as an adult, when you look back at those movies, you're like, yeah, if my kid ever behaved like that, I'd kick the crap out of him. Yeah, I understand they're bullies, but that doesn't mean you go and pick a fight with them. That doesn't mean you go and you prank them and stuff. You're just asking to get your ass handed.
Here's what happens. There's this girl, Allie, and they both...
That's all you need to say. They both stop thinking because a girl walks in, right? Because look, there isn't enough blood for both ends.
Yeah.
That blood rushes out of your brain and goes to your other head.
and Daniel sees an opportunity. Thinks, so this guy's he's having a fight with his girlfriend, but it's not a violent fight. He does grab the radio from her or whatever, right, or throws it down, but he doesn't hit her. But of course, Daniel is an aggressive.
That's a crucial point. As a kid, seeing those reactions, you interpret it one way. When you see it later, you're like, yeah, especially when you see the second movie too. On top of it, you see how abusive Kreese is to Johnny. You go, okay, you could almost see if Johnny was like that, but he's not. The fact that he's not speaks at least something. And that's why Mr. Miyagi goes over and steps in. He's like, hey, he's a kid, leave him alone. At
the beginning of part 2.
Yeah, at the beginning of part 2, right.
Because what happens is at the end of the match in the first one, I think he's like sweep the leg. Like I think Kreese wants him to do a dirty move, and Johnny is actually hesitant and doesn't want to do that move. Like even as much as the rivalry between him and Daniel is there, it's like I don't want to go there. He actually
again, that's another scene that I saw very differently as a kid than I did as an adult. As a kid, if you tell me to sweep the leg, I get disqualified, and I don't get to win.
Yeah.
And Kreese is going, it's not about you, it's about the team. He's thinking Vietnam soldier. He's not thinking, high school tournament, As an adult, I look back and I go, he might have been thinking that, but deep down, he has a moral, problem with this. He's not a bad kid.
No, and I feel Johnny Lawrence, I think, could have been served getting some instruction from Mr. Miyagi. I think that would have been an interesting. I don't think they should ever redo the Karate Kid, but that might be an interesting twist. That maybe at the end of the movie, Johnny Lawrence goes to Mr. Miyagi for guidance, which might have been interesting. I don't know. Of course, then we wouldn't get Cobra Kai. So what's the point?
Well, exactly. Yeah. And Deleted Scenes makes a great point. Not only that, but the girl dumps both of them in the end. Yeah. And first,
we see her,
she does. Have you gotten to that scene?
It gets addressed, and I thought it was funny her POV on it.
It really was good, but it really is. And I saw this all the time. It happened to me. I saw it happen to other guys that I went to school with. You fight over the girl, it's not like in the movies. The girls don't really like that. That they just see you as being, boorish and immature.
Yeah.
And they will dump you. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It happened to me. It's a great lesson for you when you figure it out, if you figure it out, which I did. But, the girls don't take to that too well. What you do is you give them their space. You treat them like human beings. Only defend when you have to. If this had been a different scenario and Johnny was abusive to her and Daniel stepped in, okay, fine. That's absolutely called for. You don't lay a hand on another person, especially not someone who's not fighting back. Pick on someone your own size kind of thing. That's not what was happening. These guys were having a clash of egos. And honestly, the girl was an excuse. Let's be honest. This went beyond her.
Yeah, it did.
And I think they both, as adults now, they both seem to realize that. It's just the thought that has to go into the writing of a show like this. You have to not only really fully understand those 3 movies, right? And all the characters and their motivations, but you have to extrapolate the 30-some years in between to who they are now.
Yeah, right now, especially on this issue, there is no Mr. Miyagi in the mix.
But there kind of is, isn't there? He is very much present in that storyline, even though Pat Morita is
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Daniel Russo is doing his best to follow in his footsteps, but he knows he's not Mr. Miyagi. He's just doing his best to do what he taught him. And of course, there's Chozan, who we saw. That's his name, right? Who we saw in Karate Kid Part
exactly.
Saw in Karate Kid Part 2, which that's the one I remember the least. I need to give it a revisit. I remember seeing it on the big screen. That was a big deal movie when it came out that summer because everybody wanted to see the next chapter.
I love that movie. Yeah,
they go to Japan and or some small island near Japan, I think, and it's you learn about. And, of course, there's another girl in that, too, right? There's always a girl in these movies, right?
Yeah. Have you seen the payoff with Chosen and with her?
I have. It was brilliant because, for starters, when he first sees him again, and suddenly you see the flashback, and it's like, duel to the death or something. And it's like,
right.
Right. Oh, no. Like, this is seriously, this is like some Japanese honor thing, like,
it is
fight to the death, and it was like, oh, my goodness.
And he does the Miyagi honk, and it's like, he's like, I've been waiting so long to do that.
I think
He's like, what's going on?
I think Chozan in some ways was scarier than some of the other opponents because he had the training that, in some ways, Daniel. I mean, I think his master was trained by the same guy that Mr. Miyagi was trained by, right?
Mr. Sato was, for all intents and purposes, like a brother to Mr. Miyagi, and it was. I forget which one's father that taught them both. But that also has a great big payoff because, Daniel kind of only knows, he probably doesn't know everything that Mr. Miyagi knew, but he's struggling to kind of fill that role. But he reaches out to Chosen, who's learned from Mr. Sato, kind of the other half of it. And it's like when they come together, it's like, that's the unity of Miyagi's karate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant. It really is that demonstration of maturity and the culmination of the story that you kind of saw in the second one when you see the history of Miyagi. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything, but I feel like they could almost go back in time and do a World War II era, prequel with someone playing a young Miyagi.
Part of me almost doesn't want them to do that.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
Because I don't want them to mess it up. But maybe as a one-off special, it might be. I don't know. We'll see. Like as a miniseries, I don't know. We'll see. What I do find interesting though is that there was that hit. Actually, that pop song was a big deal in Karate Part 2. Remember?
Glory of Love, absolutely.
Yes, I remember that. That was on the radio all the time that summer.
Yep. And they used, of course, that back then the music videos they would use like clips from the
from the
film
movie
and whatnot. Yeah.
Then we get to part 3. Part 3 got panned. Everybody ragged on it. And I don't think I even saw it till it came out on video. I remember at the time thinking it was pretty good. And then sometimes, you let other people influence you. I guess it wasn't that good. And it's only the first one's good, really. And then of course, you go back and watch and realize, no, this is actually a very good third installment. Like some people were complaining that Ralph Macchio gained weight, and I'm looking at the clips from the he didn't gain weight.
The thing,
he had a baggy sweatshirt on in one scene. He looks pretty
well, but there was something else that people key into that I noticed about part 3 that you only notice if you're thinking through the casting, and that's let's see, Karate Kid 2 is like 86, so Karate Kid 3 was couple years later than that.
Too old to still be the senior in high school.
He was too old to be playing the kid that he was in the first movie, let alone how old he was in the third movie. Yeah. So he was starting to look his age, and that kind of weighs on your face, Well, that's just the way it is, right? It's not like I want him to go back and touch that up with CG or something like that,
No.
I mean, my gosh.
This one, though, Daniel really gets put through the ringer. This is Kreese getting his revenge. Johnny Lawrence is not involved in this revenge. Right. So let's not. Instead, he gets his old war buddy. What was his name again? Hold on. Oh, I hate this. Anyway.
Yeah.
John Kreese's revenge. First, what is it? He ends up all the money he won, or I guess did he win the money in Japan? He decides to use for Mr. Miyagi's bonsai shop, right?
Exactly. He buys up the bonsai shop so that he can, kind of carry on the family tradition. He's kind of taking the role of a surrogate son to Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. And Terry Silver, that's who it is. Yes, Terry Silver.
Right.
He comes and says, "Oh, I want to apologize. Kreese was part of our school, was part of our discipline, but he acted dishonorably, and of course, unfortunately, he died recently. And
right.
Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi are, of course, they're not happy about Kreese dying. I mean, he was an adversary, but they didn't want him dead like that. They respectfully part ways. Of course, this is all a big scam. Kreese is well alive. And Terry Silver wants to get revenge on Daniel LaRusso. And he does this by hiring some karate champion, I guess, from somewhere else in the world, like the bad boy of karate. And he
Mike Barnes,
Mike Barnes, and he wants him to fight Daniel LaRusso.
Yep.
And, first off, Daniel LaRusso gets a free pass to go to the final stage in the next tournament. And Mr. Miyagi says, "Now you already proved what you had to prove. You don't need to do it again." And Daniel says, "Yeah, you're right. This was just to get the bullies off my back and to prove, it works. So I'm not going to fight in the tournament. Let somebody else have it." And of course, Mike Barnes shows up and he says, "I want your title." And he says, "Well, go take it. I'm not entering." He says, "No, you have to enter. I have to be able to beat you in front of everybody." And he starts harassing him. Daniel's hanging out with this new girl who, of course, has a boyfriend. So there's nothing romantic can happen there, right? So,
well, you hope not, because also she was significantly younger than him, so that was.
I didn't realize that. I don't know. I don't remember who that actress was, but I think she was
Robin Lively. She was young at the time. She went on to have a larger role in the second season of Twin Peaks.
I feel like she was in every '80s movie.
She would pop up in things.
She would pop up in these '80s movies every so often. I recognized her, but. Let's see though. But Daniel LaRusso, he's getting bullied and pressured. I think they break. They like he's trying to. They destroy. They steal the bonsai tree. So Mr. Miyagi shop's going to go out of business. So he tries reclaiming this bonsai tree that Mr. Miyagi put on the side, put in this place where it's very dangerous. It's
almost impossible to get to. Yeah.
But he wanted to get this bonsai tree so they could hopefully sell it and get money to start the shop again. And of course, as they're trying to get back up to the cliff where they could drown because the tide's going to come in, the bullies say, "You better sign this, or we're gonna let your girlfriend die." And it's all this. So finally, he gets so frustrated, he signs it, and then they say, "Make a wish," and they break the bonsai tree and they break the trunk, and it's so devastating, and it's like. Yeah. And he comes home and he's like, "I've been so stupid, Mr. Miyagi," and like Mr. Miyagi said, "No time for that now. It's fine. We got to fix the tree,"
Yeah.
And of course, he wants Mr. Miyagi to train him because he signed the thing for the tournament. And Mr. Miyagi says, "It's fine that you did that, but I will not train you for this."
Right. Yeah. It's he has a moral problem with it. So Daniel is now. He's had a rift put between himself and his teacher, so he seeks out another teacher. Someone who comes offering the hand of friendship.
Terry Silver.
Yep.
Who he realizes is a psychopath. He's a manipulator.
I'll tell you something. You don't know the half of it. Wait until you get to him in Cobra Kai.
He's already shown up, and right now he seems okay, and I know something's gonna snap.
Oh, it gets bad.
He was horrendous in this movie. Kreese, I felt, was a better villain because at least I knew where Kreese was coming from. Kreese is upfront about what he's gonna do to you, whereas Terry Silver gets under your skin, makes you do things you don't want to do. He's giving him all this horrible training, and he's basically giving him Cobra Kai training in a nutshell.
He exactly is. In fact, Daniel he brings that up.
Yes.
In Cobra Kai,
because the kids show up from Cobra Kai to join his dojo. They say, "You can't let Cobra Kai in here; they'll never learn. They'll never come back from there." He says, "Yes, they will." How do you know? Because I did.
Yep.
Because he's been giving bad lessons. Terry Silver is getting a rise out of him. Finally, it accumulates when he's at this dance club, and Terry Silver bribes this guy to start messing with the girl Daniel's with, and finally Daniel gets so angry, he punches him in the face and breaks his nose. It looks like her. And then they run out of the club, and Terry Silver's like, "Great," and he's like, "No, I gotta go back in there." And then Daniel's beside himself with guilt. He's like, he's like he actually wants to find out who he punched, to see if he can make recompense, but they can't find out what happened to the guy. And he has to apologize to the girl he was with. It's a big disaster. And then finally he just he says, "You know what? I'm just going to tell them I'm not entering the tournament." He goes back to Terry Silver, and then guess who's there? All the villains are there, and they're going to start to beat the crap out of Daniel. Right? He finds out Kreese is alive, freaks out, leaves, and then of course who shows up to the rescue? Mr. Miyagi.
Yep. And that is the important point about Mr. Miyagi in this third movie. He's always there, even though Daniel rebelled against him, turned his back on him. Was kind of a dick, but he's never going to leave him. He's never going to leave him. He's always going to be there from just like a father.
He's always going to be a sensei, or a father. Yeah, but here's what I do want to say about Daniel, and I don't think Mr. Miyagi fully understood this. He was being pushed.
Yeah. Well, no, I think at least he figured it out.
Yeah.
He knew he was being manipulated, but that is a common storyline throughout the 80s. You see it in Back to the Future too. This, get how people get at you and dig at you and get you to do things that you know you shouldn't do because they push your buttons, right? You got to understand what your buttons are. Let no one have control over you but you. Yes.
And accumulates in the final match where Daniel is, I guess he's finally getting psyched out, and he's like, "I'm afraid, Mr. Miyagi, I'm afraid." And then Mr. Miyagi goes, "Daniel, you can lose to an opponent, but you must never lose to fear." That's what he tells him. And Daniel finally gets himself up and wins the day, and that's the end of the Karate Kid saga, unless you count that other movie, which.
Well, it's definitely the end of the Daniel LaRusso saga.
Story,
it's not the end of the Mr. Miyagi saga, and I'll be interested to see if there's in this next season any reference to that fourth
his other
movie.
His other student.
I think it would be at least a nice nod if they did, but if they don't, it doesn't really matter because again, it really is about. Daniel and Johnny, there's really nothing that happens in that fourth movie that, would have any bearing on any of these characters. It would be a stretch, but I don't know. We'll see.
I stand corrected. Robin Lively was 16 and Ralph was 27.
That's what I was saying. She was underage at the time that film that show filmed, or that movie filmed. Yeah. So
that's Karate Kid Saga.
As I understand, there was she was not upfront about her age when she auditioned. So.
She's cute though. The last thing I saw her in was a Criminal Minds episode where she and her husband were being tormented by guest serial killer of the week, Will Wheaton. And you'll love how it ends. The FBI guys chase Will Wheaton, and he runs into an oncoming truck and gets run over.
Yeah, I like I said, Twin Peaks was the one I remember her best from, but she was. I remember her from an episode of Quantum Leap, and I think she was in an episode of that show you like, that X-Files.
She probably was. I'll have to look it up. You get a lot of actors on the X-Files. They were trying to be careful not to pick too recognizable stars. Of course, they got rid of that in later seasons when you had Burt Reynolds showing up.
Yeah. Right.
And I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be playing God or the devil or both in the episode. It's a dumb episode. And it ended with French singing, like a chorus singing in French at the end. And if you didn't think the X-Files had jumped the shark at that point, I don't know. But
okay.
Anyways, we should move on to the news.
We probably should. But man, that was a great impromptu good old days. That was definitely worth it. And yeah, we'll follow it up. We'll have this summer. We'll do a Friday night.
We should do for Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Oh, from what I remember, Ralph talked to the producers and writers, and both Ralph and Robin were not comfortable with the age disparity, so they just made friends. Do you know what I like about that plot point in Karate Kid Part 3, though? He likes her.
Yeah.
But there's an off-limits thing, and he doesn't want to be a jerk about it. We can be friends. And it's kind of funny because it's like, Daniel really has no luck in this movie.
Yeah, right.
He's not going to get the girl, and it's not even because it's just not, she's seeing someone else. It's not appropriate, but he still likes her, but it's
yeah.
Well, it's funny if she go ahead. Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it does speak to his character, right? That it doesn't all have to be about the girl. He's just a nice guy who wants to look out for a friend, right?
It's funny how she actually ties Daniel to his feet. Really? I guess I'll find out about that, huh?
Oh yeah. You'll find out about that. I guess that's later this season for you.
It's always nice to introduce.
Yeah, she does come back, and it's again another great payoff for a character.
Yeah. All right.
So don't feel too bad about him and his relationship at the end of Karate Kid 3. It is crucial to his meeting his wife.
I hope things work out for most of the characters on Cobra Kai, even the quote-unquote, because a lot of them, they're still just kids, and they're making stupid mistakes, but they're kids. You can learn from them,
Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll see if any of them come out of this. But it's torturing me because it's like you see people doing stupid things, but you understand why they're doing them too,
Yep, exactly. But yeah, no, I again, I don't want to ruin anything for you, but yeah, there is. Let's just say that Mike Barnes is coming back, and you'll see what's become of him, and you'll see what's gonna happen to him. Yeah,
I think some characters can't be redeemed, but we'll see. Okay, all right, let's go to the first story of the night. Walt Disney.
Yeah, let's get our dose of
paste it or
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Just bear with me because I was so focused on Karate Kid.
It's okay. I love Cobra Kai. Like I said, I had a feeling the show was going to be good. I just haven't had the time, and I'm like, you know what? You're going to watch Cobra Kai. Stop being a loser and not watching Cobra Kai. That's what I told myself. So
give me a second. It's H.
There we go.
The whole link there. The link is too big for me.
Is it bounding in the comics again?
They have great articles, but they don't know how to make a link.
I'm bounding in the comics. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Walt
Disney. I gave you guys the title. from that, you should be able to look it up if you want to, okay?
Walt Disney CEO Bob Iger claims protecting children from sexual orientation and gender identity propaganda sounds not just anti-business, but sounds anti-Florida. The Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger made it completely clear where he and the company stands when it comes to exposing children to sexual orientation and gender identity propaganda during the company's annual meeting of shareholders. During the question and answer section of the meeting, Alan Fisher of Ameriprise asked Iger, what steps have you already taken or will be taken to protect shareholder value with regard to the legal battle between Disney and Ron DeSantis and the Reedy Creek Improvement District? We are kind of all concerned about that here for tax purposes. My son lives in Orlando and he's worried about his taxes going up. Iger replied, first of all, we love the state of Florida, and I think that's reflected in not only how much we have invested in the last 50 years, but how much we have given back in the form of jobs and community services, taxes, tourism, of course, and all sorts of other responsible business practices. We've also...
And 60 years of cheating them on taxes because of this whole Reedy Creek thing. Let's not forget that. Go ahead.
We've also always respected and appreciated what the state has done for us, Iger continued. It's kind of been a two-way street, Iger then said. But a year ago, the company took a position on pending Florida legislation, and while the company may have not handled the position it took very well, a company has the right to freedom of speech just like the individuals do. Right, because corporations are people. I seem to have heard that before. Anyway,
yeah.
And obviously, upon taking the position, the governor got very angry about the position Disney took, and it seems like he's decided to retaliate against including the naming of a new board to oversee the property and the business in effect, and seek to punish a company for its exercise of a constitutional right, Iger said. He then asserted, and that just seems really wrong to me, against any company or individual, but particularly against a company that means so much to the state that you live in.
And I need to underscore that one again. That he is doubling down on that point, and that point is going to decimate Disney in court. Because Reedy Creek is not supposed to be Disney. And it is not Disney that DeSantis and Florida is going after. It is not their constitutional rights. It's Reedy Creek. And everything is completely above board. Reedy Creek is being treated like every other taxing district. That's the whole problem. And for him to be making what's really a false argument, oh, they're attacking us because of our political blah, 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 blah.
No.
Number one, as a business, the shareholders should be holding your ass to the fire for getting political in the first place. You shouldn't be doing that to begin with. But that's entirely up to you and your company and the shareholders. You want to get political? Get political. Who gives a damn? You lose all your money? That's fine. You have every right to do that. The problem is, we're talking about a land holding, a taxing district that has nothing to do with your politics. That has to do with you've been getting something that none of the other taxing districts get, right? And Florida has been saying for a long time, this isn't right. This isn't what they signed up for when they created this concept of Epcot, the world of tomorrow, or whatever.
Because that was supposed to be a community originally.
It was supposed to be a community, yeah. It wasn't supposed to be, 12 double wides, in a trailer park, okay? So they've been getting a special taxing benefits here, and it's Disney that's been reaping the benefits. And so you have like Universal Studios going, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair. And then you got, I don't know, whatever incorporated, Landmarsh, taxing districts going, hey, wait a minute. That's not fair. So all sides all around them are upset about this. And, the legislature in Florida has been like, yeah, this really is a problem. But it took the will of a governor that was willing to say, you know what? There is no company that's too big. There was a time when Disney was the biggest thing in town. That's not the truth anymore. You know, you do have these other parks, you have these other companies, you've got all these individuals that have, you know, retired here and their tax dollars. We need to be fair to all the damn taxes. So, but again, this comes down to by admitting that it's not just Reedy Creek really is Disney. By admitting that, he's basically admitting to fraud being perpetrated by Disney against the state of Florida for nearly 60 years.
I want to bring up another point, though, in this. He was saying, oh, it's a corporation is like a person. Person has the right to freedom of speech and stuff. No, he's ignoring what Bob Chapek said. Bob Chapek said that the Disney Corporation was going to be doing things interfering in the laws of Florida. I think he alluded to that in his speech. It wasn't just the fact that we as the Disney Corporation disagree with this. He was alluding to the fact that they were going to be interfering with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of scary territory when, you know, you're going to have a corporation define.
Well, and here's the other irony, right? This whole idea of companies being treated as people, as entities for the purpose of First Amendment. Keep in mind, it was the left that was always against that.
Yeah.
They said, oh, that's not right. Because
that was Mitt Romney that did the whole corporations are people, and they balked at that.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. And it was all for the purpose of campaign finance, right? And now when it's their corporation, oh, now you're going to take the other side. It can't be both ways, you know? But,
yeah. Well, it's funny. I have noticed, and it's slow going, and it's not enough. But I even noticed some members of the left are finally starting to say, "Okay, we need to dial this back." I think Anna Kasparian, who I'm sure there's no love lost between you and her, but she made a point that
right.
she was reporting on an article about DeSantis and I think some abuse thing or something with a mother. I forget what was going on, and that the story was deliberately proven false. But all the media jumped onto it, and she included, because she said it came from a mainstream media source. And she says, even though she doesn't like DeSantis, there's not due diligence being done to get the facts right in these stories, instead of worrying about narratives and not bothering to check the sources. And I'll give credit where credit is due. She is correct there, and maybe this should have happened a long time ago, and maybe it never should have been tolerated in the first place. But
so I would if I was giving out homework on today's lesson, I would say refresh yourself on Citizens United and that whole case, and this whole idea of companies having a First Amendment right. I think there's a huge problem with campaign finance to begin with. You shouldn't need a company to finance, but you as an individual should be able to give as much as you want to whatever campaign you want. There just needs to be visibility on it. And right now, the way they try to control it, it's like, no. We have a right to, I don't want to go too far down the law and finance side, because I could totally get into the Trump charges right now and all that kind of stuff too, and how that all relates. But you also need to be intellectually honest when you're having these public debates. You can't say one thing about campaign finance and be opposed to Citizens United, but then when you're Disney and you're trying to go up against the state of Florida, say, oh, you're oppressing me. Well, which is it? Do corporations get treated for First Amendment rights, or do they not? Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
I actually would say that no. I never did agree with that. And this is me going against this for all the people that think, I'm Mr. Righty, Republican, all that kind of stuff. No, I call it wrong when it's wrong. And, I'm not a big Bush fan. I'm not a big Cheney fan. I'm not a big statist fan. Okay. And when they make bad calls, they make bad calls. And Citizens United was a bad call. It was argued in such a way where I could have been convinced because there were problems it was trying to address, but that wasn't the way to address those problems. That is, if you're a millionaire and you have millions and millions of dollars to contribute, you should be able to contribute however you want, right? And if you do, then we have that visibility. You have to kind of declare it, right? Instead of doing it through companies and then hiding who it is that's giving that money. Because those companies also get funds from international sources, right? So now you have international sources contributing to campaign finance.
There was a lot of well, don't take my word for it. It was in the Times.
Yeah.
Years back with this is how we got rid of Trump, and they explained Mark Zuckerberg's involvement in the whole thing. And it's all there. Like, you idiots, you're not supposed to lay it out there for the public to see.
Well, the problem is the only people that are reading it are the people that already know. And everyone else just ignores it and disbelieves it and believes whatever propaganda is pumped out by the mainstream media.
Now, let's go back. Now, let's move on to Miramax.
Do I still have that one up? Give me that.
I can post it if you
I got it.
All right. I wonder how much dirt is still left over there.
Way more than we're ever going to see.
And
they only seem to uncover it when it's advantageous for someone to do so.
And
you notice how that works.
Who owns Miramax?
Disney. That's why we have it under the Disney heading here.
Okay, an ex-model is suing former Miramax exec and Harvey Weinstein pal Fabrizio Lombardo, claiming he lured her to a fake meeting at a posh New York City hotel and... should I use that word?
Rhymes with the fruit that wine is made from.
Violated her. I'll put it to you that way. Well, yes.
You know what? Committed sexual assault. That is a legal term. If we get hit for that, then I would defy them to do that, you know?
You have to wonder if YouTube doesn't want us talking about these things for other reasons than protecting people. Maybe it's protecting the wrong people sometimes.
No doubt about that.
Sarah Ziff, 40, claims that in 2001, when she was a model and aspiring actress, Lombardo, who headed Miramax in Italy and Europe, tricked her into attending a bogus meeting with Weinstein and his brother Bob at the Mercer Hotel, and then sexually assaulted her, according to a Manhattan Supreme Court lawsuit from late Thursday. Earlier that night, Lombardo invited the New York woman, some 20 years his junior, to a screening of Black Hawk Down at the Miramax office in Tribeca, where Weinstein and another young woman were also present. The filing says the disgraced movie mogul barely acknowledged Ziff except to invite her to eat some food that was there, the suit claims. The movie ended. Lombardo invited Ziff for a drink at the Soho Hotel, telling Ziff that Weinstein, the other woman, and possibly Bob Weinstein would join them, the court paper said. Ziff accepted, thinking it would be a good career opportunity to meet and speak with the powerful movie exec brothers, the suit claims. But Lombardo led Ziff straight to the hotel penthouse, where an uncomfortable Ziff kept her distance, smoking cigarettes by the window, the court documents allege. The Italian man, who was around 40 at the time, rubbed her thigh, and Ziff pushed his hand away, telling him that she had a boyfriend, the filing claims. But Mr. Lombardo would not stop the suit charges. He pulled Ziff onto the bed, got on top of her. Well, you can read the rest yourself, but we know what happened.
You really don't need to know the details. That's bad enough.
I was going to say Ziff was so traumatized by the incident that she could not speak about it for several years afterward. She attended other meetings with Lombardo afterwards because she feared that if she did not, Mr. Lombardo would retaliate against her by using powerful connections in the modeling and acting industries, including with Mr. Weinstein, to deny her work.
But here's the question. Let's cut right to it. 2001 case. Why is it coming up in 2023? I don't buy that you go this long. And hear me out here, because I am not about to defend anybody on this, okay? I am not suggesting this was a made-up thing, but why wait, okay? And every case that we hear like this, the timing just seems too perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's running for an office, somebody's, publishing a book, somebody, whatever. Something's happening, and suddenly someone comes out and says, oh, this happened to me, 23 years ago. Okay? what's been going on with anything around the Weinstein people that might, trigger somebody to come and speak up again, or someone go and reach out to her and say, you know what, now's a good time to talk about that thing.
You don't think it's related to the Acolyte, do you?
I don't know of anything else that's going on related to anything Weinstein related.
Interesting.
Yep, because as we all know, Leslie Headland is heading up this Acolyte film that is now going to court over business-related issues and financing related to that show. Show or movie? No, it's meant to be
TV series, mini series, right? And
who is Leslie Headland?
Is Harvey Weinstein's former secretary, I think.
Exactly.
Assistant, maybe that's better.
So the only thing I could imagine is that somebody reached out to this gal and said, hey, that thing that happened to you 22, 23 years ago, I think now's a perfect time for you to start talking about it. Don't worry, we got your back.
It's I don't know. You wonder how many other skeletons there are.
But Netter just made a great point. There's a statute of limitations on this. When you go this far, it's not like she can bring charges. No. Right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. There is no other reason to bring it up except to get it in the news. Why do you do that? Cui bono? Who's benefiting from this? Does she benefit from it? I don't know. I can only imagine that I would want to just keep it quiet after all this time. If I wasn't ready to, bring charges against somebody for doing something to me all those years ago, then I would just want to never deal with it again.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a business reason. So we'll see what happens.
We'll keep an eye on it for you guys. Longest running superhero RPG on Earth, welcome to the chat.
Yeah, he's like, great topic that I walked into here.
Well,
what are you going to do, though, right?
Made me uncomfortable, too. I remember when the Weinstein charges came out, and when it first happened, and I was so disgusted. And yeah, maybe call me naive. I didn't realize. I thought of the casting couch in Hollywood as something that was from the past, like the old Hollywood. I didn't realize it was still going on. So maybe that was just naivete on my part, but I was horrified by the whole thing.
When we did that watch party of Mulholland Drive, that was something that Stephen Otten and I were talking about, where the girl's telling a story to this old Hollywood woman that, and she's like, yes, dear, sure. It's like, nah, we know how these things work. It's always been that way. There's nothing different now, And then sure enough, as all the Me Too stuff started happening in the news and stuff, there was a lot of older women in Hollywood going, duh. This has not been a well-kept secret,
People in the industry knew what was happening.
Yeah.
They do.
And look, I know this is the controversial take, but there are women who have come out and said, I knew about it. I benefited from it. My body, my choice. I made my choice. And, here I am today,
This is why I get kind of pissed, though, at Hollywood, because I feel like they project their sins on the American populace.
Absolutely.
like Me Too becomes about all American men. I'm sorry, all American men are not like the types in Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. I am the past, handful of years have made the concept of confession through projection very clear to me. You see, when you see someone being brought up on charges and they get off on those charges because there was nothing to them, look at the people that are accusing. They're guilty of what they're accusing of. Just saying, Yeah. And when Hollywood is talking about this kind of stuff and saying all men and believe all women and blah 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 blah, it's like, oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Because this would benefit you. But that's not, our world is very, very different. That is the big disconnect in all of entertainment, is that lack of understanding of the Hollywood writers and directors and producers and the real world. You know, I just heard today, Andre over at Midnight's Edge was talking. I don't know what the main topic was, but they were talking about the concept of representation. And it's like, they don't have no clue what representation is. And that's why they're doing it so badly. That's why, you know, they're miscasting things and they're getting hit in the head by the left, by the wokosos that they are trying to appease, because they don't even understand what that representation is.
No, they don't.
And they think that, okay, if I just swap one race for another, that'll make everyone happy. And they're going, no, that is not the kind of representation we want. We want our own characters. We want our own writers and directors. We want you to, oh no, well, we can't do that because we have contracts and we got to, okay. So you don't really care about representation. You care about an appearance of representation. Right? And because everybody in Hollywood is a certain way, you think all the rest of the world is this way. So that's why we need 90% gay in all of our stories, because that's where you live. That's not most of the people consuming your films.
Surreality, welcome to the chat. Big sigh boomer. Yeah, I think we're all having a sigh right now.
Right?
Unless it's a sigh of my naivete over what happened, which maybe
let's just do one more to get us through the Disney thing, and then we'll go on to something else. Huh?
One more. What's the one more?
The next article.
What's the next
Spider-Man.
Article?
Spider-Man trailer stirs interest with Protect Trans Kid flag and Black Lives Matter pin.
I did want to make a point about this, though. You can yell at Disney all you want, but this is still a Sony-made movie. This is happening partially, at least in part, from the Sony camp. I've liked something Sony did. I think they did a great job with Ghostbusters Afterlife. But also keep in mind, Sony also gave us Ghostbusters 2016. So
do you think that the woke has infiltrated Sony, or do you think that this is Disney's pushing
it's an independent? There is woke stuff over at Sony, mainly because of the games division. There are people over there that are like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the whole company is. See, you have to understand that there are gradations in the companies. I think Disney is completely taken over for them. Other companies, they might have factions. I don't have the proof of this. I didn't see the original Into the Spider-Verse. Did you?
I did not. I had no interest.
I don't know what it was about this movie that threw me off. I think it was the fact that there are dozens and dozens of different Spider-Men throughout the universes. I thought that was...
And this actually does come from the comics. The story of Miles Morales. Miles Morales... Now, actually, Miles Morales is a great example when he started of how you do representation appropriately. Right. He came from an alternate universe, and he wasn't just, Black Peter Parker. He was a completely different character.
Sure.
There were some minor similarities between the characters, but very, very different. In fact, his father was involved in his life, and instead of it being Uncle Ben, it's his dad, who was a cop, and all this kind of stuff. And that was great. And they had this whole line of stories in Marvel that took place in this alternate universe, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then they decided to, go all new, all different with Marvel, and everything that they did that was good turned to crap, and it became pandering instead of being, the actual, representation that they intended, and that kind of reflected in, from what I heard, in the first Into the Spider-Verse, where yes, Miles Morales is the Spider-Man of another universe, but Peter Parker is now an old guy and, with a paunch and,
Yeah, the dad bod, I guess, right?
Exactly. And it's all Miles Morales now. Peter Parker's old has-been. And, because then in the comics what they did was they blended the universes together, and not the mainline universe, but the Ultimates universe. And the Ultimates universe, Peter Parker gets killed off, and Miles Morales becomes the new Spider-Man. And it's like,
I know that in the game for the PlayStation 4, you start out playing as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, but Miles Morales is a teenager helping out Aunt May And by this time, Spider-Man is in college. He's a college. In fact, no, he just graduated from college.
Yeah.
That's where the game
I
starts.
give a little bit more
Yeah.
leniency to games. You
Yeah.
need to
They
pull
made their own
together.
universe, yeah.
You have to pull together disparate universes and find a way to make them mesh because people want to play as different characters. I want to play as Peter Parker. I want to play as Miles Morales. I want to play as Ben Reilly. I want to play as Venom,
But yeah, but at least with that too, they're distinct. They are very distinct. Like Miles Morales is just starting out as a teenager. I don't think he must get bit during the game because I think eventually you can play as him. But and like I said, Peter Parker is interesting because he's at a different stage of his life too. I think he's just out of college, and it was interesting because the first job he gets is working for a Dr. Otto Octavius.
Yes,
which I thought was interesting. This is before they knew, but anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's go back onto this article. Hold on, I'll just start reading from it. Okay. Newest Spider-Man movie released its second official trailer on Tuesday, and it seems one of the film's main characters is an advocate for trans kids, while another is a Black Lives Matter supporter. In the trailer, a short clip of a scene from the movie is shown where Gwen Stacy, an erasure of a former Spider-Man love interest, who is instead a spider-themed heroine, is in her room. Seen on the wall of Gwen's room is a transgender flag with the words protect trans kids on it. The movie's main character, Miles Morales, who is a black teenager living in New York City, is also shown to have a BLM, or Black Lives Matter, pin on his backpack. Many fans noticed both inclusions. Praise alongside fierce criticisms followed. Spider-Man said trans rights, one fan tweeted in response to the new trailer. That's why we love Spider-Man, another fan exclaimed in reply. Pink News called the inclusion of the trans flag in the new trailer a brief but unmistakable nod to the trans community. However, many on social media were outraged about what they call propaganda in the new trailer, while others likened the flag to someone marking their territory. Bounding in the Comics claimed that Sony Pictures was promoting child mutilation with the inclusion of the flag. The flag is a symbol of gender affirmation and surgical procedures done to affirm an individual's misguided belief that they are the opposite sex of what they were born. John Trent writes in his Bounding in the Comics article. That's for that quote. Publication Bleeding Cool also said Sony was pushing trans kids and BLM to far left topics that were endorsed by the movie. What do you think of these left-wing tropes being included in the movie? Bleeding Cool asked its readers. Sony's animated Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a sequel to the incredibly popular Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it features many iterations of Marvel's ever-famous web-slinger Spider-Man. The movies focus on a young black teenager by the name of Miles Morales, who takes up the mantle of Spider-Man after being bitten by his own radioactive spider, and his universe's Peter Parker, its original Spider-Man, dies. Also included are another universe's Peter B. Parker, an older Spider-Man who mentors Miles, and another universe's Gwen Stacy, who instead is being a damsel in distress that Spider-Man fails to save, is her own spider-bitten web-slinger superheroine, sometimes referred to by the moniker Spider-Gwen. In Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the three spider heroes fight alongside against the villainous Kingpin to undo the harm done to the multiverse and return to their respective homes. Miles also grows from being Spider Acolyte, eagerly attempting to learn the ropes from Peter B. Parker to his own full-fledged Spider-Man. Gwen acts as more of an example of what Miles should aspire to be, and is shown to be more experienced and skilled. First movie of a planned trilogy, Into the Spider-Verse, was a critical box office success, even winning an Academy Award since its release in December 2018. The movie has grossed more than $375 million. All right. I'm not sure what to say to this. I should know what to say to this. Here's what I want to say. I am actually kind of shocked that this stuff wasn't just left to be seen on the big screen and they threw it into the trailer, which maybe makes me wonder what else is in this movie that we don't know about.
Yeah. Here's my take on this. If you are depicting a superhero character, the superhero character needs to be on the side of what's absolutely, unequivocally right. If it is something that half the population disagrees with, you stay the hell away from it. Of all the truths in the world, if you accept only one to the exclusion of all others, that truth becomes a lie and you a fanatic. And that is what is happening in our media and in our entertainment now. You are taking things that you think are absolutely fundamentally right, but you are in a tiny, tiny minority. The vast majority of people think you are nuts. And sometimes you gotta stop and have some self-awareness and go, you know what? A crazy person never believes he's crazy.
I mean, it's this issue is the fact that one half, it's almost like one half of the country it thinks it's child abuse, and the other half thinks arguing against it is also child abuse. So maybe these are not issues you need to be bringing up in a. Are we? Is this a children's movie? What's the age range for this? Teenagers?
I would say preteen to teen.
Yeah, so this is a children's movie. This is a family picture.
Yeah.
You should be bringing
It
this
should
up,
be.
even alluded.
It should
And don't
be.
even get me started on the other thing, the pin, the burn loot murder movement. But
Yeah.
it's my
Yeah.
fun.
Let's burn down the city and, revolt, and that's somehow peaceful protesting.
I noticed that movement has kind of vanished.
Well, it's become
election
very, very
happened.
clear that it is not. It's like I said, the vast majority of the country is like, no. And if this is what you support, we'll vote you out. Except in very, very blue enclaves. Look at New York, look at Chicago, look at California, right? These are the holdouts where you still have, this kind of thing going on. And look at what happened on Saturday in Chicago.
I was so busy with the house. I read some headlines, but I didn't know the full details. I knew people were killed. I didn't know I didn't know yet who the perpetrator was, though.
It was a whole freaking riot downtown Chicago, State Street.
Yeah.
A bunch of kids, maybe they were of a particular color, jumping on top of buses and smashing stuff, and somebody pulled out a gun and shot somebody. And I shared out on what do you call it, on Twitter. I said, hey folks, those of you that say, hey, I'm coming to Chicago, you want to meet up? Nope, I don't go into the city. Sorry that you came all this way cross country. You can stop by if you want to visit me personally, but I ain't going into the city. And if you do, keep your head down, keep the windows rolled up, and don't stop.
It's terrifying, and the fact that it's still going on.
And for a superhero character in the comic books to be supporting Black Lives Matter, that's not a hero, that's a villain.
You need to be staying out of these hot button issues. I don't get it. I mean, I never got the impression from the comics that Batman or Superman were either a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah,
Did you
the
ever
only
get that
characters
impression?
that they portrayed specifically as having political, leanings that I can think of. I mean, certainly people could, tell me otherwise. But I remember specifically that Green Lantern and Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Green Arrow was Democrat, and a Green Lantern was Republican, or liberal and conservative if you want, and that was specifically because they had that dynamic of the liberal versus conservative,
But I'll at least say this: at least in that instance, neither is being portrayed as the
No.
villain.
Yeah, they were
hearing
both shown to be heroes
Yes.
with different perspectives. Now, you could argue that in some ways they sometimes played Superman and Batman against each other. Neither one could you say was liberal or conservative. It was just, where they were in the range of justice versus upholding the law and so on and so forth. And they came from different points of view, but ultimately it came down to they were both on the same side. It was that mentality we've always had in this country. Democrat, Republican, we used to not be able to agree on anything, but we'd find some middle ground, because somewhere in the middle is usually where the truth lies, right? That's what you saw with those characters in the comics, right? But that's gone out the window, because one certain side has decided only we are right, and if you disagree with us, you are just evil.
Let's see. Classic DC is conservative except Green Arrow. Classic Marvel is... Oh, that's interesting. That's why Hulk smashed tanks in Vietnam. Well, I don't know full on what was going on there, but... Both Peter Parker and Clark Kent get treated like crap by the women.
Depends on the era, but yeah.
Clark Kent, though, it's super. I don't know. Let me think about
There
that.
there was a period during the John Byrne era that played with that very, very well, where Lois Lane they kept the dynamic of the, you know, love triangle with only two people. And there was this one story that was told from Lois's point of view where she was like, gosh, I really, really like Superman. You know, there's so many things I like about him, you know, but I know I'm kind of a little starstruck on him. But I really, really like Clark. He's down to earth, and there's so many things I like about. There's a guy somewhere in the middle that I'd really love, you know, and it was leading up to, you know, her finding out and being, oh, you are the perfect man for me. You are Superman and Clark, right? Whereas other eras of Lois Lane totally looked down their nose at Clark and only cared about Superman, which, you know, that says more about Lois than anything. But
maybe superhero property shouldn't chase divisive trends. That's all the comics seem to be chasing these days. I don't know if DC has had its
maybe
act
all
handed.
entertainment properties shouldn't chase divisive trends.
But not all of them do. I want to make a point that some movies are still being made that are apolitical and are for everyone.
True. And they're the ones that are doing the best, right?
Yes,
But
they
the
do.
ones that keep doing it, that keep making these mistakes, you know, look at what's happening to Marvel right now. The MCU is dying. Star Wars is dying or already dead, depending on, you know, what day you ask me, right? You know, ask Anheuser-Busch how their stock is doing right now. You know?
Stan Lee said the Marvel vs. DC was really Republican versus Democrats, a few exceptions. You know what I almost see the Marvel.
You know what?
versus
Stan
DC
Lee
is-
was a dumbass. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm just going to say it. He
But here's
treated
what I-
people like shit. He treated the creatives like crap. He stole. He's basically an example of comic book stolen valor. Okay.
Tony Stark, I think, was appropriate. No, but what I wanted to say about Marvel versus DC makes an interesting point. I almost see DC as tradition, and Marvel was trying to be almost countercultural when it came out. What do you think? Maybe I'm. Reaching. I don't know.
I think that's probably putting too fine a point. I get where you're
Maybe
going,
so.
and I agree with the spirit of what you're saying. But I think it was, if we got really into it, I think that DC saw itself more as an idealized superhero world, where there was very clear, defined lines between good and bad, whereas Marvel tended to deal with things more in allegory. I mean, just look at the X-Men, right?
Yes.
It's very hard to pick any random group of mutants and say they were the heroes or they were the bad guys. They switch back and forth from time to time. Look, we try to say that, you know, these heroes are heroes and these villains are villains when we look at the MCU. But if you look at the comics, Wanda started out as a villain, became a hero for a little while, but on occasion would become a villain again and would side with Magneto and whatnot. You know, I mean, sometimes Magneto worked on the side of the heroes too. You know, there was always that moral gray area. Superman, Batman, they never kill, right? But Logan, Wolverine, oh, he kills all the time. Shing, 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 shing. You know, that's the real difference.
Oh, he said he mentioned Stan Lee because he meant it as his author's intent.
Yeah.
I know you often argue about that.
Well,
with the
again,
author,
that's the other thing, the death of the author, you know, and he's literally dead now. And the other thing, too, is if you look at the things that Stan Lee said, he changes his story all the time. He says one thing, and then you ask him 10 years later, and he completely changes his story, you know? Not to mention half of his stories are, oh, yeah, I thought of Spider-Man when I was blah, 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 and this and that and the other. And it's like, oh, you invented Spider-Man. Did you really now? Right, okay. Just like Bill Finger invented Batman. Okay.
Meanwhile, Steve Ditko's staying the night at the YMCA. But
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
anyway,
Exactly.
let's move on to from Marvel to DC.
Yeah, because
Uh,
DC has their own problems to deal with.
why?
Because this is the entertainment industry, my friend. Do you not, realize that yet? Bounding into comics, learn how to do a damn link already. For crying out loud.
They're getting better with the meandering, but yeah, because they used to meander forever in articles. It's like just get to the point.
Blue Beetle director deletes tweets wishing assassination on Orange Man Bad, claims Puerto Rico is a slave colony, and then goes on to tell everybody that they are bad and he is good, and da 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 da. And this is all one big title. Don't bother reading the article. We just summed it up in the title.
Blue Beetle director, I'm going to assume Angel Manuel Soto, recently deleted a tweet where he hoped that President Donald Trump would be assassinated like President Abraham Lincoln. In a tweet from August 7th, 2018, Soto wrote, "The only thing I hope Trump has similar to Lincoln's presidency is the way it ended." The deletion of the tweet not only came after Lofty Pixel shared it to the social media, but came after Soto was criticized for including George Lopez's "Batman is a fascist" line at the end of the Blue Beetle trailer. YouTuber Ryan Kinnell criticized the conclusion of the line, saying, "At the end, the Batman is a fascist. This is pandering to these stupid effing 20-year-old free profile picture she them don't know what your effing gender is, don't buy comics, don't have money to go to the movies. That's who that effing pandering is to. Batman is a fascist. F off with that." So that's so stupid. All right, let's go to the first point of this article. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, you never wish for a president that to happen to a president.
Yeah.
I don't care who is in office.
And
period.
and let me underscore that even deeper. If you are someone that does think that way, you should not be writing superhero characters because you don't understand what that is.
And you at least be smart enough to delete the tweet from 3 years ago when you've been offered a job of,
No, I'm sorry. I don't even give points for that. You don't ever put that down.
No, you don't ever put it out.
Ever. I don't care who you are.
What I'm trying to say, he wasn't even smart enough to get rid of the tweet.
Well, yeah. No, you're right.
Yes. No, but I agree with you. Yeah, you never pointed out in the first place. The internet's forever anyway, right? So someone's going to record it.
People just don't understand this. Because now the immediate reaction when you see something, you look at that and you go, I can't believe I'm reading that. Screen capture, because it won't be there tomorrow.
You too, yeah. And this whole Batman is a fascist nonsense. This is...
And this is also why...
Can Warner Brothers figure out what to do with Batman already?
Well, this is why comics are dying. This is why DC has never been able to get their films off the ground. This is why Marvel MCU is dying. And really, this is why so much of the entertainment industry is dying. We speak so highly of things like Top Gun Maverick and Super Mario, which we'll be getting to in just a second. Why are they doing so well? Yeah, they're good. They really are. But it is like a breath of fresh air. It's like when you're drowning and you burst through the surface and take a deep breath. That's what this is like when there is no, I don't know what you call it, preachification, in our entertainment. It's just entertainment, right? It's a starving man getting a loaf of bread.
It's the Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I didn't even think of that, but okay.
I don't have a problem with the Blue Beetle. In fact, I think he works well especially when bounced.
But I could see you saying that somebody might be putting that on him. The blue and the red and the whatever. Okay, I'm joking there too. But I feel bad. The actor who plays Miguel on Cobra Kai is going to be in this movie. I think this could be dead on arrival. I'm going to say something else. Mm-hmm. I say this all the time. You feel bad for actors that take certain roles, But you know what? They chose to take that role. And if they didn't, they chose the agent that chose that for them. You got to make your business choices. And you're held accountable for them.
Yes. I don't know how old he is. He seems like a younger actor, though. So, I mean, I guess...
I get that. But look, how many younger actors... Tom Cruise was a young actor once, too.
True.
You know? And maybe you learn a lesson, but you're getting into an area of entertainment that, yes, it paid off really, really well for those guys that played the initial first wave of the Avengers, but it is not working out well for anybody else.
I want to ask, I also want to ask, too, I know that they're moving into a new era of DC. Is this sort of thing going to be curbed with this new slate of DC movies? Are you keeping an eye on these directors you're hiring?
Yeah, well, there's that, too. Is this now dead on arrival? Is this part of the, legacy?
This was part of the Snyderverse. I thought maybe if it was really good, they could work it into the new one.
So this is something that was filmed in the can, got dumped, and it's not going to get a follow-up. This is going to be just like Shazam 2. There's no future in this for these actors.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, guys.
I felt bad for some of the actors in the Black Adam movie.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
I'll tell you who I don't feel sorry for is The Rock. He made choices and forced them on Warner Brothers, and
but he'll survive perfectly.
He'll survive, but he has effectively killed that whole portion of the franchise, because there was a point there where there was a lot of goodwill for that first Shazam movie, and if they had done Black Adam the way it should have been done, you could have seen fans not only pour out for Black Adam and have, oh, okay, this is the new villain going up against Billy Batson and blah, 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 and this and that. You could have seen it go, okay, well, we're going to roll this into this new continuity and continue going forward with them. Nope. He decided that he was going all in on Man of Steel, Superman. And guess what? That's dead. So is yours. Congratulations. By extension, so is Billy Batson. We're done. Moving on.
Yeah, I think the Blue Beetle is the last. We have Blue Beetle, we have Flash, and we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Those, I think, are the final three in the what's left of the Snyderverse. I don't even know if I want to call it the Snyderverse anymore, since he's not been involved with it for ages. It seems like it's on autopilot right now, and I'm just waiting for it to end.
Oh, Auditor Dread, that's brilliant. What? If Blue Beetle bombs, they can drop it, and maybe they can hire Cholo to be Kyle Rayner.
Yeah,
actually, that would be good casting. Yes.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with the actor. I made a point that the actress playing Mary Marvel, I think they need to look at her.
She's really pretty.
She's really pretty. She's got the long. She does the super thing.
Gal
Gadot's a great actress. But I think if they're going to get rid of her as Wonder Woman,
I'll tell you what, Mary Marvel didn't get enough development.
Yeah.
At least in that first movie. I don't know about the second one.
But I'm saying they could cast this actress as Wonder Woman if they had to replace Gal Gadot. Which if they're going to replace,
right.
And Henry Cavill, they're going to be replacing Gal Gadot. I'm thinking her as Wonder Woman. She's still in her 20s. This is a no-brainer as far as.
Oh yeah, she would make a good Wonder Woman.
We'll see. I don't know. They're probably not going to listen to me. But.
No, probably not.
But yeah, she's easy on the eyes. So is Gal Gadot too. Don't get me wrong.
But you know what? It's not just the looks, though. That means nothing if the character, the acting isn't there.
I feel she got the rawest deal out of all the actors, because I think she was the best pick for Wonder Woman they could have had.
Yeah, Gal Gadot made me really like her in that role, even though I didn't like what they did with Wonder Woman. And I forget the girl's name who played Mary Marvel. I really liked her, Yeah. So, I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know. I want to have faith in this James Gunn thing, but I need proof before I can even. I don't know. We'll see.
And again, I'm arguing that I think people are expecting too much out of James Gunn. Not anything against James Gunn. I don't think he's being brought on to do what people think he's being brought on to do. Yeah. He is not going to create a new DC universe, shared universe, whatever. I think he's just doing a few key DC stories that he wants to do to say, hey, these are still good characters that can be marketed if we end up selling them. That's what I think is really happening. He's doing the equivalent of a big blockbuster sizzle reel or series of sizzle reels.
Gal Gadot should have been Elektra. Yeah, I could see her in that role. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I could have seen that too.
Oh, I don't even want to think about. I'll say this: the actress they did get to play her on Daredevil did remind me kind of of Gal Gadot in some ways.
And guys, remember, I'm still working on that over on MeWe, that whole thought experiment of how we would have gone back in time and redone the DC universe if we could have done it right from the beginning. And I have a last call coming up in a month or so with CK, the longest running superhero RPG on Earth. He doesn't really agree with me about the premise, starting from Smallville and spinning off from there. But he's going to talk about what some of his thoughts are. And I think it's
Smallville,
fun little experiment.
In many respects, it was my replacement for TNG, and I can't explain.
I can see that
because it was just comfort food TV.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And
it was.
It wasn't perfect. It had its flaws. TNG had its flaws too. Though TNG had some really good episodes too. Even some of the simpler ones were fun to watch. So.
Well, I think that TNG, right, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Smallville, they were great shows that people loved. They stood on their own.
Yeah.
And they could have been great cornerstones for a bigger universe. Yeah. And people just dropped the ball on them. You know?
Yeah. What could have been? Let's move on to Super Mario Brothers.
I think some much better news. I think this is the white pill of the night as we start talking about Super Mario Brothers.
This is kind of ridiculous. YouTube isn't sure if the Super Mario Brothers movie is woke.
But read through it. It's kind of almost humorous.
I almost felt like going on a rant about this because of some.
Yeah, it's not worth going on a rant. Okay. It's people that don't even understand what's going on here.
I'll stay out of it then. YouTubers seem confused by the simplicity of the Super Mario Brothers movie, unsure whether to label the children's animated film woke or anti-woke. You might be wondering why anyone would come to view a movie like Super Mario Brothers through the lens of the culture war, but the online media ecosystem has become exceedingly divorced from reality. Even silly kids' movies spark melodramatic reactions. Whenever a new adaptation of a beloved international property is released, like Super Mario Brothers, YouTube is flooded with video essays earnestly discussing the politics of said adaptation. This phenomenon is by no means exclusive to the reactionaries of anti-woke YouTube. LeftTube is brimming with essays dissecting the politics of, like, SpongeBob SquarePants. But anti-woke reaction videos have proved immensely popular, with many boasting millions of views. Overanalyzing kids' media can make for an entertaining video essay, but at its worst, anti-woke YouTube fuels reactionary backlash against diverse casting and strong female leads, explicitly framing these qualities as intrusive and damaging to the storytelling. Well, again, and I would argue, at least from my own point of view, it depends. When attempting to analyze Super Mario Brothers, things got pretty silly because there's simply nothing here there to analyze. The Super Mario Brothers movie is a great bit of fun because better than it has any right to be. But the film is pretty much a series of colorful action sequences that mirror segments of the games. Super Mario games are almost completely devoid of plot, lore, and character development, although with a franchise as diverse as Mario, there are exceptions such as Paper Mario. He's referring to the RPGs. There are Mario role-playing games where they have more intricate plots, though I would argue those plots are comedic in nature. But anyway, generally, there is no story. Mario is tasked with defeating Bowser, rescuing Princess Peach, and, well, that's about it. In the film, Princess Peach is an agile fighter brimming with confidence. She has been depicted this way before, while Mario is introduced as a fish out of water who has to learn how to be a hero. However, Peach is very friendly and supportive of Mario and doesn't really outshine him. Hence, anti-woke YouTube wasn't sure whether to be angry about it, and reactions were amusingly divided. Super Mario Bros. Scored a record-breaking opening weekend, which isn't particularly surprising. It's an entertaining movie starring one of the most iconic video game characters of all time. The film's success has inspired many right-wing culture warriors to run with the anti-woke narrative as a way to explain the film's popularity. Assigning any political perspective to Super Mario might be a desperate reach, but justification for the anti-woke label seemed to stem from the criticism of John Leguizamo, who appeared in the 1993 live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie and recently expressed disappointment that the new film failed to include a Latin actor. Anya Taylor-Joy is a Latina actor. Or actress, I should say.
Yeah.
Since we're using the female anyway. They messed up the inclusion, Leguizamo told TMZ. They discluded. Just cast some Latin folk. We're 20%. They did.
Yeah. Okay, before you start
The voice cast is actually fairly diverse if you look at it. I mean,
before you start getting too upset, keep in mind, remember where I was before this movie released. I bought into all of the misapplication and things that were said in the run up to this.
Yes.
That I now realize was clearly meant to be, I don't know what you could call it, woke baiting, trying to portray it as woke when that's absolutely not what it was. And I think there's a lot of people out there that aren't as keyed into these things that are going to be confused by that. Right? There's people in journalism that don't understand what they're reporting on. They don't understand these IPs and this area of entertainment. And so they hear two different sides talking about it and they get confused. Right.
And I remember telling you at the time, let's wait and see, because
I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Well, I'll even say when I saw the second
you
trailer,
talked me off a ledge. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. Well, no, but I understand it, because when the second trailer premiered, even I had a bit of a reaction. I'm like, oh, here's Princess Peach leading the people and stuff, and it's like she's acting more like Princess Daisy. She doesn't act like Princess Daisy now that I've seen the full film. She actually is a very feminine character, and she's actually very respectful of Mario. She doesn't put him down. She has bigger things in her mind, the invasion of her kingdom, but they join it. It's a solid movie. I would consider this movie apolitical. That's what I consider it. The way movies used to be when they were pushing
and the unfortunate thing
time.
is that in this hyper politicized era, we're now, it's causing us to look at everything through these filters. And if you don't know the IP, if you don't already know the lore, you might project certain things onto it. But when you realize that, there are certain stories that have a connotation to them, that always have, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And this is, we've got to consider what we say all the time and be true to that. Be respectful of the lore. Well, this one is, right? And if there are quote unquote woke elements that were always inherent to it, that's fine, right? People would say the same thing about Star Trek: The Next Generation. There were things that were there that were progressive. That was fine. We didn't have a problem with it then. It's part of the lore, so we don't have a problem with it now. It's when you go off that reservation and you start, throwing things in there that was never meant to be, Yeah.
Like I think Red Letter Media was making a point. I think in regards to Star Trek, like the way Star Trek would have done it in the old days. Like, let's say if they're talking about like the border crossing situation, right? It would have been a planet like they have like a shield around their planet, and the refugees trying to get in, and then they're worried about too many get in, and it would be like a balanced view, and they would do it in a science fiction guise. You understand?
Yeah.
Instead of making it about ICE is the bad guys and Picard season 2, they're one of the bad guys along with the Borg Queen.
Here's
else.
Here's one that's nuanced. A little bit harder to, because I don't know how many people saw it. That last Rambo movie, right? You could argue that there was a little throw-in bit there about immigration and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, you got to really stretch for it. And that could very well be what Sylvester Stallone's intent was, right? Maybe he meant to be a little preachy about something. In the context of the story, though, absolutely appropriate, absolutely valid, and I did not have a problem with it. Even though if it was preachifying about what I think it was, I probably would not agree with that point of view. I can't find fault with it in the story. That's how you do it. You got to be mindful of the story you're telling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't have to agree with, as long as it makes sense from a story
and just like something that Stephen Otten was saying yesterday on his Unplugged, talking about and I mean it's a point that we've brought up too, and other people have, this whole idea of, look, Ripley and Princess Leia, and how many other strong female heroic characters did we love for a long time?
Yes.
Because you know what? That war has been fought and won already. You've come a long way, baby. We live in a world where we know that women are capable of just about anything men can do. Okay? They're capable of one thing that men can never do. And this should not even be controversial to say. Women can create life. They need a man to do it, but ultimately they do the lion's share of the work on that one.
Yes. Yes, men can't have kids. I know
that makes women incredible heroes. And let's not only be mindful of the fact that women should have and do have equal rights, but they're also different and capable of things that men aren't. And men are capable of some things that women aren't, okay? That's not a bad thing. That's not a shortcoming. That is diversity, people. That's real diversity. Deal with it.
Yeah. Like, I don't think Mario could wear a dress and float, but maybe Luigi can. I'm kidding. That was
Is that something that Princess Peach can do in the games?
No, in the games she can float with her dress. She uses it like a parachute, like a flotation device.
Oh my gosh,
it's been around since the old Nintendo days. Yeah,
I'm glad I didn't know about that, because having done the study on women's fashion,
in the movie. Yeah, yes.
It is that there was actually a danger that back in the days of big hoop skirts and bustles and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was actually a danger of that. The wind getting underneath it and knocking a woman over.
That's funny.
Issues related to fire safety and so forth. That's funny when it works in a game. Not funny when it happens in real life, guys. I'll tell you.
I
know way more about women's fashion than a straight guy really should, to be honest with you. I joke because Netter will tell you I've helped her make those Victorian dresses.
A lot of us men we struggle with fashion. It's more about learning what not to do over time.
There's a joke. There's a joke in the steampunk and Victorian reenacting that women that want to cosplay and reenact and make those dresses have to go through an awful lot of work. Men, we can still buy off the rack because men's fashions don't really change that much over the
more's the pity. I was hoping the tie would die by now. Remember all those futuristic movies in the 70s? They showed men's future suits, no ties.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the width of the ties change, the size of the ties change.
The ties will never.
But by and large, they kind of still.
We're done.
Yeah.
I'll be stuck tying a noose around my neck every time I have to go to a special occasion. Anyway, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
If that's how you feel about it, you're wearing your collar too tight and you're tying your tie.
I got a bull neck. It's probably because I don't get wide enough collars. You're right.
Yes, I learned that. that was part of the costuming. I learned that because I was like, I hate ties. You're wearing your collar's too tight.
It might be the collar issue. You're right,
And I went to a formal wear shop where I got my measurements done, and I was like, oh yeah, I was wearing like 2 sizes too small for my neck.
Okay.
And once that changed, and I wore my tie tied correctly, I was like, man, that's actually pretty comfortable, you know. So yeah, it's if you want to dress. Okay, this is I know this is I've gotten off topic, but this is a great life lesson for you, Boomer, and for all the men in the audience. You want to dress sharp. You want to be a sharp dressed man, right? You go to your local, a formal wear shop, and get your measurements done. Have them take your neck, your length of your arm, and all this kind of stuff, and you find out exactly what a tailored shirt and jacket and waistcoat would be for you, and pants, and get yourself at least one fitted suit. Okay, it's gonna be costly. Don't buy it off the rack. You go to that formal wear shop, and this is not a rental. This is a purchase. Okay, so that and have it made to you. And when you go to that wedding, that formal occasion, sadly funerals sometimes too, you will be the sharpest looking man there. Because it was made for you and it fits you. And that's if you have a muscular build, if you're a little punchier, if you're a skinny baleen, whatever you look like, if your clothes are made to fit you, the women are going to go, hey.
I believe you.
Because if you don't look good in your clothes, it's because you're not wearing the right clothes fitted to you. That's all there is to it.
And anyway. Audra says, mothers are heroes and some of the most strongest people I know, but sadly get viewed as weak. Well, such are as the times. Anyway, let's move on.
And David's saying to me, you are the new Mr. Blackwell.
Who?
I'm missing a reference here. Who's Mr. Blackwell?
Who's Mr. Blackwell?
Help me out here. This is one that's going over my bald head here.
Okay, maybe it's from a television show. Okay, go to the next thing. Come on, we got a lot to get through. We're already at 10:47.
I don't even know
what happens when I do an Easter stream.
Yeah, right.
I keep thinking we're leading up to a holiday. People stop with all the news breaks, and of course they have to have. We didn't even cover Star Wars Celebration, but I figured we covered that on Troy's channel. And
I think I got the wrong. Do I have the wrong?
Who won the week? Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah, do I have the right link with that?
I'll find out in a minute. This is one of the ones I didn't make notes for, so I'll be reading it raw. Hopefully it's not too long. Okay, let's see here. Puck News. Puck you.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what they used to say.
If I got the wrong link, it's my fault.
Happy Passover and Easter. From what I'm saying is, no, that's the wrong thing. Nancy Myers. Is that Ben Affleck?
I don't know. Wait.
Taika Waititi? What on earth? Everything's all over the place here. Hold on.
Give me a second. Let me look at this because I think it was just like a part of this article. Yes, this is right. Scroll down. Who won the week? Go down to the bottom of that link. Not hard. The Spielberg of video games now has a hit movie franchise after Super Mario Brothers' wild 377 million global 5-day opening, including 204.6 million domestic. A treatment of the power of his Nintendo IP per sources. The game company financed half the movie's $100 million budget to get 50% of profits after Universal and its Illumination division.
Nintendo was heavily involved. I'm looking like it's not just that they licensed it out to Illumination Universal. You can make a Mario movie, pay us money. No, they were heavily involved in this production.
And this speaks to a conversation that Boomer and I had behind the scenes here that I alluded to in the previous one. I was feeling like, I was seeing all these news articles about Princess Peach as this big girl boss, and, she's going to go save Luigi and blah, 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 and turn everything on its head. And I was like, the heck is all of this? Only for Boomer to talk me off the ledge and say, no, no, no. No, no, no. Nintendo's got this. Nintendo is in control of this IP, and they're not going to let anything like that happen. And this is why.
I thought this was more like a J.K. Rowling situation where, of course, she makes a lot of money, but I think that I don't think she has a controlling interest in what Warner Brothers does with her IP. Like, she doesn't get like 50% of the profits or puts 50 a year. Nintendo was heavily involved.
This is a very different business situation,
which means
where they're in control because they're a 50-50 share partner.
Nintendo wants to now get involved in movies. They've now had one of the biggest animated motion picture openings of all time, and we will be seeing more movies from them using
there is a lot of people drawing the comparison between this Mario movie and Nintendo and so forth and Disney and what they used to be, right? And basically saying, they're kicking Disney's ass, which is kind of why I did the thumbnail the way I did with Mario kicking the mouse in the butt. But it's kind of true because it's this movie and the franchise and so forth, and where this can go, as well as the whole Nintendo. They got some theme park interest too.
Oh yeah, Universal's big on that. Universal's, I know Super Nintendo Land, I believe, maybe it opened in California already, or maybe it is opening. For Florida, they have planned a whole new park called Epic Universe, which I believe Super Nintendo Land will be a part of it, and there'll be other sections of the park as well. Maybe
and CK called it. He said, "Bring on the NCU, the Nintendo Cinematic Universe." Oh my gosh, that your lips to the Nintendo's God's ears, so to speak.
Yeah, Nintendo hopefully learned from the ill-fated live-action film. I hope they could do a Legend of Zelda Metroid. Legend of Zelda is going to happen. I want Metroid. I don't know how they would do Metroid. Star Fox would be incredibly easy. You can just do it as an animated feature.
So I want to cite a joke from that came up over at Midnight's Edge that Tom Connors weighed in on. He was saying, he was, and I'm paraphrasing badly. You should really just go watch the Midnight's Edge from this afternoon. But he was saying something like he was waiting for somebody at the end of the Mario movie to come and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about the Super Smash Brothers initiative," which, of course, didn't happen. And it's a good thing it didn't happen because that didn't happen in the first movies that led up to the Avengers MCU thing. And you got to let these movies have their individual and then eventually maybe lead up to something like that. And if done right, it could be really, really good. And I think it will be done right. I think that's where they're going with this.
Well, it depends on what you can have exist in a Mario universe, whereas I think Zelda would have to be its own thing. However, I could see them treating Zelda as their Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
You could do a trilogy or something, and I don't know if they would do it animated or live action. Metroid, I'm fuzzier on how they could do it. I know some people say that you could still do it as an animated feature. It almost screams live action to me.
And so, we got CK and we got Steven here both saying, what I've heard other people saying on other channels, Metroid. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know anything about it, but I'm with you in spirit. If this is,
here's what I'll describe to you with Metroid.
Without let's maybe not go too far down this rabbit hole.
We're not going to go.
Give me the Cliff Notes. Yeah.
Basically, what I want to say is it's a science fiction exploration day, and the One of the bosses is named Ridley, named after Ridley Scott, director of Alien, because of course the guy that made the game was heavily influenced by Alien. It's not like Alien, as in that has H.R. Geiger inspired monsters. So the monsters in Metroid are pretty awful, but it's got an intergalactic bounty hunter, Samus Aran, and she has a power suit. She's in, they say girl boss character. Here's your girl boss character if you want a girl boss character, and she works for the Galactic Federation to hunt the space pirates and these deadly creatures they've discovered called Metroids, which can destroy galactic civilization by sucking the life out of anything. I don't know how they do it as a movie because these games are very much a solo affair where you're Samus stuck on this alien world with you're by yourself and you're encountering all these horrible creatures. And even when you encounter space pirates, these are still aliens. They're not, and it's not like I'm not picking on Star Trek, but it's not like they have bumps on their faces and they look human though. These look actually alien. Like these are not human looking at all. Some of these creatures, and it's can they do a movie based in this universe? I think they could. I just don't know how they would do it, and I don't know who they would cast either. Again, animated I don't see for Metroid, but I could be wrong. Unless they do it like they did that Beowulf movie, but again, that style seems to not be popular in Hollywood anymore. Which I kind of liked it, where they use the actual actors and then computer animate over them. But we'll see. I don't know what they're planning to do, but as far as Mario goes, you can do tons of movies based in the Mario universe, and maybe even tie other things.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of Surreality, CK, deleted scenes. They've all got great ideas, but let's keep in mind that's kind of pie in the sky type of stuff.
Yeah.
But let's also kind of trust that I think these guys know what they're doing, and whatever they do end up going with, it's probably going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, I also want to make another point about Metroid, the Oscar Metroid. Metroid is a game series that's very popular in North America, maybe Europe as well. Never became a huge hit in Japan, which I always thought was interesting. I guess it still has a following in Japan, but this was one of these things where it was an export that was much more popular overseas than it was in the home country, which I always thought was interesting. But it survived because of its popularity overseas.
And, I'm feeling like, especially from things like this, like what Auditor Dread was just saying, again, you guys are saying stuff that I don't know anything about. You guys are the subject matter experts, not me. But from what you guys are saying, I'm feeling like too integrated, too much MCU style integration might not be the best thing. I think that we have different audiences for different subgenres, and that could be a great thing.
I think all you need to do is you have your Mario extended universe, which can pull out a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, if you want to make a Punch-Out movie, you could set it in the America that was shown in the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's like they even reference it in that movie. So yeah, you could have a Punch-Out movie taking place in that Donkey Kong Country movie. All sorts of Mario spin-offs like Luigi's Mansion. They could do a Mario Kart movie about a big race. That might be interesting to watch, like a Wacky Races style thing, or like an Amazing Race thing with all the Mario characters and whatnot. Zelda, you can basically treat like this is your Star Wars trilogy property, and then if it's successful, you keep doing it. Because with Zelda, the characters are always reincarnated in new eras, new generation, but there's always a Link and there's always a Princess Zelda that comes about like every few hundred years or so in that world. So it's interesting. I don't know what Nintendo is planning. I will say this to you though. Nintendo is kind of like the Lucasfilm, the Walt Disney. They're kind of like that for video games. They have a long cherished history, and now they're breaking out into movies. They are serious about breaking out into movies now. I did not realize they were funding half of this thing. They have a theme park coming out in Orlando. They already had one in Japan. They seem partnered with Universal. I think Universal's happy to be a partner rather than just being an owner because it helps out Universal too. This helps Illumination movies out too. This will help Illumination movies do better too. I mean, they've already been doing well though. I know the Minions movies are very popular, but I think everybody wins from this partnership.
Netter loves them.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that because there's been a lot of movies, there is a universe there, but not like this complicated thing that you need, thing upon thing upon thing and all interconnected. You could just do a series of films and just do them, and it follows a formula, and that's okay. It's still going to be good.
Interesting. I think Nintendo associates live action with box office failures like 90s Mario movie, Street Fighter. That may be a point. In fact, it also goes back to, I don't want to get off on a tangent here because we've got more stuff to get through, but I remember when they used to have full motion video in computer games and video games, and it got such a horrible reputation that now in video games, everything is CG cutscenes rather than, even when they use real actors, they'll have CG versions of those actors, because I think those live action just got a very bad rap with video games. So we'll see what they have. I think
what it comes down to is with each of these subgenres, I guess I have to call them, what is your audience, right? And what I mean by that is it, men or women of a certain age or whatever, and then
both.
but then kind of gear it that way. So if the age group is younger, animation is great. If it's older, maybe you can go live action. Each one you have to make a different choice on, right? And tailor the medium to the audience is what I'm getting at. Will it work in live action? Then do live action. Will it work as animated? Go with animation. Whatever.
Interesting. Then talking about buying the animation studio, I think they want one more Pixar style approach. Well, again, though, they seem to be happy with Illumination, so I don't know if they would buy more of a stake in Illumination at some point. So we'll see what happens.
Who knows? Maybe you'll see the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Maybe they could make a Despicable Me video game. You never know. I don't want to spend too much time on this next one. Just that Super Mario Brothers jumps to another domestic weekend box office victory of 87 million.
This is another one I have to paste as 2 parts.
It's fine. It's doing well. Okay. This is going to be. It's very interesting how Nintendo is going to do. It's funny. I see the relationship with Universal kind of like.
And there might even be newer numbers than this. Either way, it's a runaway hit. We can't underscore that enough.
Kind of like how Disney had a relationship with RKO. Remember how they was with, and that's sort of how I see this with Universal. Universal's sort of been struggling with what they do film wise, but I think now they've really hit it on the head with this children's movie, and it's just great to have a movie you can take your kids to see and not have to worry about anything, right? Yeah. Awkward conversations on the car ride home. And to be fair, I think someone's making a point. Have Illumination movies ever really been pushing a political agenda? And they didn't think so. Even beyond the ones that they're making with Nintendo, like Sing or the Minions movies or things like that. So Super Mario movie jumps to another domestic box office with 87 million. And this may be a little old at this point, but
it was as good as I could get as of, I think, like. Okay. Early yesterday or late in the day.
I'll just read a little bit. Super Mario Brothers movie has jumped another domestic box office victory with 87 million, bringing out the North American total of 347.8 million in its global. That's a good for a second week to 677 million. And people have made a point. It still hasn't opened in Japan or Korea yet,
where it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean,
and so the point is. These like Boomer said, these might be older numbers, and the newer they get, the better they get. These numbers are just going up and up and up. This film has legs. It does. It is wonderful. It's not walking away. It's and Netter's doing something over here, which is funny. She's showing me her legs. And it's sexy and it's wonderful, and you don't get to see because she's mine.
I know. Lucky you. Anyway.
I know.
Mario and Friends didn't have much in the way of competition this weekend, as The Pope's Exorcist was the closest to the video game adaptation with 9.15 million. In a review of The Pope's Exorcist, we said, you can find horror movies a lot better than The Pope's Exorcist, but in an increasingly stale exorcism subgenre, you can absolutely you can absolutely do worse as well. The Pope's Exorcist
did not take, because there is no overlap with Mark. If anything, the big, and we're probably not going to be getting into it too much. Pope's Exorcist probably drew a lot away from Renfield or whatever.
Did Renfield not do well? Was that also out this weekend?
It's not doing that great, and
pity. I did like Nick Cage's
because
Dracula.
everyone that I've heard that's seen it said it was really good. You know,
Why would you?
Little humorous, a little silly, but
why were two horror movies opening on the same weekend?
But not only that, Tom Connors made a great point about Renfield. It's the kind of thing that might have done better if they had gone a little bit easier on the gore and gone for a PG-13.
Yeah,
then,
it's my same complaint about Wolfman. Yeah.
And then they could have done like an R-rated version DVD release, you know.
Well, I often think too, you can still do creepy atmospheric horror movies and make them PG-13. And don't get me wrong, I'm a gore hound as much as the next guy, but I think with some of these gothic Universal movies, I think maybe a PG-13 is a good benchmark. Creepy, maybe a little bit of scares like gore, but not a ton. Like the Wolfman was another one I think would have done better with less gore in it.
Yeah. And we didn't actually do an article on that one, and I think we need to see where it goes maybe next week. Yeah. Maybe next week we'll talk more about it. Yeah. But I think there were some missteps with that one, and it's too bad because it's probably a better film than its box office is reflected.
Could figure out.
I know.
Russell Crowe's Italian accent is unintentionally hilarious, which I'm curious about now. I hope it's not another House of Gucci. You want to hear some bad Italian accents. I'm almost begging you to watch that movie, but I have to front it in that it's a bad film. it's not a good movie, but it's... I
might end up going off on it the way Metatron goes off on bad Italian accents.
Well, not only that too, but it's also an historical movie as it's based on a true story, and you could also tear it apart for that too. But anyway, let's move on to the MISC section. Okay.
Yep. Give me just a second. Let me.
Oh, is this the writer's strike?
Miscellaneous is what you're saying.
This is where I'm getting to the point where I don't have notes anymore.
This is because I had to update. Get a newer article, and I felt like this one was a good one.
It's fine. I'll just read straight from it. Oh, actually, let me actually highlight the article though, because we cite our sources here, do we not?
Yeah.
Bad news for 35 DC franchise. Warner Brothers Writers Guild goes on strike in May.
And I also thought this kind of spoke more to what we're talking about here, and drew the focus more on our genres.
There's nothing more relaxing than coming home after a long day of work, changing into your comfy clothes, and putting on your favorite TV show or an action-packed superhero flick. However, none of that could
I don't remember those days anymore.
No, I don't. However, none of that could be possible without the writers who work day and night and to produce scripts that keep us hooked throughout, many of which belong to the Writers Guild of America.
He's talking about history here.
Not to get back on Cobra Kai, but Cobra Kai is almost delivering me this stuff the superheroes the movies delivered, and not 1 ounce of CG. Just think of that.
Yeah, good point.
The Writers Guild of America is a union that represents those who write scripts for many projects, be it a TV show, a news program, documentaries, movies, so on. The union includes thousands and thousands of members, and therefore it goes without saying that if they go on strike, things will turn into a nightmare for Hollywood. Well, the strike might become a reality as soon as the Writers Guild of America plans on calling a strike if their needs are not met. The last time the Writers Guild of America went on strike was 2007, which lasted a little over 3 months, and history is on the verge of repeating itself. That destroyed Heroes as a TV show, that strike. I blame that strike. I think that's when things fell apart after that show.
Yeah, I think that anything that was a complicated, long, ongoing storyline that gets those kinds of interruptions is going to suffer.
They had to wrap it up in 13 episodes instead of the full season. So I think one of the Pacelli brothers, the younger one, Peter Pacelli, he had an Irish girlfriend. She ended up in that dark future, and I think they stopped the dark future happening, but she was still stuck there. So I guess she vanished from existence. And in the extended season, he was supposed to go back and rescue her and bring her back, but that didn't happen because they ran out of episodes, and that left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Let's not go back to Heroes. Anyway, if the WGA does go on strike, things would go south for many major studios. Those who will face the wrath of the strike are Amazon, Apple, Disney, Paramount Global, Netflix, CBS, NBC, Universal, Sony, and Warner Brothers Discovery. So basically, almost every large studio in the entertainment industry. Late night
And
talk. Yeah,
maybe we don't have to get too far into
yeah.
this.
I think strike's going to happen. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the key. It is gonna happen.
this is bad.
This article is speculating. It's gonna happen. And let's be fair. We have talked about this here on this channel, Boomer, going back to before they were even talking about a strike, saying that I had predicted that it would be coming. It needs to, because again, they're making all the same mistakes here that led to this strike. Not paying attention to the industry and history, right? We have compared the streaming situation to home media when that first happened and when cable happened, and these all resulted in strikes when people were like, actually even go further back, go back to syndication, right? And residuals, right? And you hear these stories about how the people that were in the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island and Happy Days were not getting, their any kind of residuals, and these companies were making money off of the reruns after reruns after reruns of these shows and the product, sales and the action figures and the lunch boxes and the stuff. And so what happened? At that time, it was the actors. The actors went on strike, right?
Yeah.
Well, the writers did too, because they were like, hey, wait a minute. Those are our stories that you're retelling. I deserve, you're being enriched by my work. And it's like every generation there is some new technology, some new medium, some new something, but all the same principles are true. You still have actors, you still have writers, and you, the company, are making money off of their stuff, and you need to pay them.
Yeah, Burn Baby Burn says the longest running. It's funny.
That's true too. Yeah.
I always think of the Tramps song, "Burn Baby Burn," but I do remember when the Penguins said that in Batman Returns.
Yep.
Remember Danny DeVito, and I love that line. A year later, Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening comes out for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, and in one part of the game you get your torch, right? And when you get the torch in the game, under quotations under it is "Burn Baby Burn." Whoever translated that was having some fun.
Absolutely. This is especially true given the era we're in, because we are not only dealing with people who have a real right to say, I deserve, residuals for your streaming and all this kind of stuff, but there is also, on the other side of it, on the corporate side, a lot of people that have been hired that, let's just say there's a lot of bloat in Hollywood, and some people kind of need to go away.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of bloat in many entertainment industries right now.
So this is a perfect time for that to start happening.
How is this going to affect streaming? Because streaming needs content. Streaming needs constantly new content, and if you're not providing that, we going back to variety shows? Is that possible?
Well, but again, this is no different than when it was just television, right? If you treated it like it was television, it's just being carried by the computer rather than, over the airwaves on television. It's ridiculous to assume this is any different. This is the same argument that they try to make when they say, well, we're going to outlaw this gun, but not that gun. Why? They both fire the same ammunition. Well, this one has a stock. Is that going to kill someone more? Why are we treating these two things differently? It's the same thing. You're providing content, a television show. What's the difference if it's showing up on my computer or if it's coming, on NBC, on my television?
I don't know.
So that's
how does this end up?
The way it always has. They'll eventually realize that they just can't do business without the talent, so they're going to have to meet their needs in some way.
Do you remember back in 2001, there was fear of a writer's strike, and Hollywood was greenlighting all sorts of trash movies. and they were also spreading them out, like spreading themselves thin. We got some horrible comedies, like that Tom Green comedy, which I guess people consider a cult classic now,
Yeah.
and movies like Tomcats, because they were just trying to get everything out. And I guess the idea was they'd save their few meager blockbusters for the summer
Well,
and try to hold on for blockbusters for the following summer because didn't know how long this was going to last.
there was a strike that prevented, like you said, heroes and all that kind of stuff. That's also where we ended up getting reality television from. Oh, we don't have to pay writers. This is reality television. We just have to pay the editors and the camera crew and blah, 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 blah.
This will speed up the upcoming glut of using the newest AI and not living artists like myself. Oh, well, speaking of people that use AI, I'm joking, of course. Oh, wait, never mind. We're not there yet. We have to do the Five Nights at Freddy's real quick.
Yeah.
This is process.
Uh,
I'm still angry about how the creator of these games was treated, and I would
Me
maybe,
too.
especially considering the fact that this was a successful artist, popular entertainer that was of a more traditional mindset, a Christian,
Right.
I believe. And sometimes I feel that the conservative media needs to stick up for their own a little bit more when
Yeah.
they're being attacked like this. But he quit because, of course, he was worried about his wife. His wife was pregnant again. There were people who were harassing her. And the whole thing was, I think he supported Tulsi Gabbard and supported, I guess, Trump. Did he support? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, because he threw support to different candidates, but the left attacked him over it and someone discovered it. He didn't broadcast it either. Someone dug it up on him.
Right.
But we're still getting the movie. Everyone kept wondering where the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was, and Jason Blum's Five Nights at Freddy's movie adaptation will be released days before Halloween on October 27th, following a lengthy production cycle. Five Nights at Freddy fans, you asked, and we delivered, tweeted Bloom. The movie is coming out in this Halloween on October 27, 2023, 205 days until the party. And that is very big news. As reported by Variety, the video game adaptation will release day and date with cinemas and on the Peacock streaming service. I, I,
I know. I
I,
know.
I, and people still go see these in the theaters, though, so I give them points for that. But it's like, what are you doing? This is a surefire.
You're literally cutting your profits in
Are
half.
they insane? This is a hot property. It is very popular among kids. They're going to beg to go see the Five Nights at Freddy's. They can make it R-rated. They're going to find out a way to go in to see this movie. And I don't understand. And you're throwing it on Peacock the same day.
Have you
What are you doing?
Have you played the Five Nights at Freddy's games?
I have not, and they are available on like my Switch console. I should probably pick it up for the Switch, maybe. Yeah,
I haven't played them.
I've seen people play them.
I am not sure that I could. I've
terrifying.
seen, I have watched game footage of it, like on YouTube, but a lot of jump scares and stuff like that, and I don't like that. I get too into it.
You don't like jump scares?
But what I've really enjoyed is following all the channels that talk about the lore of the the stories and behind the scenes. And I mean, you know how these games are as you go through, and you find clues and
Survival
secrets
horror
and
games.
stuff.
Yeah.
And you listen to audio tapes and you find hidden things. It implies this whole story about what happened, and now they've done books and so on and so forth. My only concern is, are they going to tell stories that encompass that rich lore, or is this just going to be a hack and slash? Oh, the animatronics go crazy and kill people. And
They'd
that's
be
it.
stupid not to tap into the popularity. I mean, they're books based on this. I could base it on one of the books
Yeah.
in the plot line. They'd be really stupid. This could be a cash cow for Universal if they play their cards right. I don't think they understand. This is lightning in a bottle here if they choose to do this justice. And I'm not even necessarily a follower of this series, but I work in a public library. I see the books that go out, and the kids love these books, these Five Nights at Freddy's books. I don't know if they're quite as popular as they were like a couple of years ago, but there was a huge following to these books, and the kids like to get scared too. And I'm sure they could make something, probably maybe on a PG-13 level, or PG. They could make this. I don't know how they're going to do it, to be honest.
My first exposure to this Five Nights at Freddy's, Skipper Kenner, who's often in my chat, his sons said, "Have you ever heard of it?" And they showed me some of the game footage and stuff, and I'm like, "Wow," you know. And the first game is it's fairly simple, kind of. I would almost call it a puzzle game, you know, but it's.
Yeah.
A very very simple, straightforward, but they add all the ambiance to it, the horrific ambiance to it, that adds so much to it. You know, I mean, it takes the equivalent of what could be like a Pong game or Breakout or something, and turns it into an engrossing, role play type of thing. It's just incredible. Yeah, it's brilliant. I hope it's great. I like horror films, and I hope this is a great horror film. Although I feel like I want to go to the movies and like when the lights come up, go, I sat through the whole thing. I didn't see the guy with the 9 fingers once.
I don't know. With the how many fingers? The knife fingers?
Yeah, I was making a Freddy joke, like
Because Freddy Krueger. Oh, I
Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy. Yeah.
I think New Line owns that.
Yeah.
What was I going to say though? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this should be good. I need to pick those games up. I can get a collection for the Switch. I think maybe that's why I need to pick it up on. I'll pick it up on the Switch. And it's available on
I'll stick with Goat Simulator.
Oh, we got to talk. We didn't get a chance to talk much about we don't have time right now, but
yeah,
we were going to have a conversation. I got Troy. There was a sale on Steam, and I figured for what the heck, I'm going to get Troy Goat Simulator, and apparently he was enthralled in the game for a few hours.
It is the dumbest thing, but it's so much fun.
Is it the stupidest game ever made or the most brilliant? That's what I don't know.
Kind of both. I remember, it's like my grandfather when he used to watch the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner, and he would laugh so hard. Yes. He says, I don't know if the guy that came up with this is crazy or a genius or both. And that's kind of how I felt playing Goat Simulator.
Because it's like you're causing mayhem. You know what it is? It's the video game equivalent of the bad car accident that you can't bear to look at but can't look away. That's what they made the game.
And if you're going to be in a car accident but you're immortal, because apparently you can't kill this damn goat. It's like the first time something happened, and I'm like I think I ran into something and it blew up and I went flying, and I'm like, okay, I'm dead, and I'm like, oh, I'm just getting back up again. Oh, is that how this game goes? Okay, here we go again.
I like it when you can lasso people and drag them with you and just throw them at things.
Oh, dude, I ended up with I ended up at one place where they had the batting cages, and I ended up with the thing that shoots the balls on my back, and I couldn't get the damn thing off of me. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I realized I could shoot balls at people by pressing a certain button.
That's funny. I've seen other videos where I think you can get a rocket pack on the back of the goat and start flying around everywhere with it.
I haven't seen that yet, but I did see everywhere that there's like, like they have air conditioning units on the roof. If you get up on the roof, it'll blow you up into the air.
And you can fly.
There's another place where, I don't know if you've ever been to these types of places where they have the big fans in the ground. So you can it simulates like you're jumping out of an airplane and you can flip around in the air and stuff like that. You could do that with the goat too.
It would be funny if they could just play the Superman theme as you're flying. Okay, so let's go. What are we at now? We're at, yes.
Did you want to skip over that one and go to Agatha Christie?
Yeah, we're not doing that. We'll skip it and need to start using it.
Yeah, screw her.
Well, we'll get to
I say
her.
that, but not even with you.
We'll get to her again at some point. She won't go away.
Hold on a second. All of these articles I gotta paste.
I apologize. We overloaded. Maybe next time we should just schedule the anyway, we'll figure it out. This was a particularly bad time though, because I should have gotten
yeah.
Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to read a little bit from this. Actually, did you post it? Hold
I
on.
did, but keep in
Uma
mind there's a follow-up story here too
Moment.
on it.
Okay. Agatha Christie's. Okay. Agatha Christie's classic detective novels edited to remove potentially offensive language. So now they've come for Agatha Christie. I keep saying, it's like that old episode of The Simpsons where they were going after Itchy and Scratchy, and Marge successfully got it taken off the air.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the lesson of the episode is, well, if you get rid of Itchy and Scratchy, then people are going to ask to get rid of the statue of David from being displayed at the art museum. Do you understand? And Marge doesn't want that to happen, so she has to begrudge that something like Itchy and Scratchy is right. Now I feel like we're like the modern times we're living in. Itchy and Scratchy is bad. So is the statue of David. Get rid of it all. That's what I'm feeling like we're living.
Yeah, it literally is. Get rid of everything.
So this is the publisher. So hold on. Okay. Novels by Queen of Crime Agatha Christie are the latest classic works to be revised to remove racist references and other language considered offensive to modern audiences. Yet I still hear that language being used on a current Perry Mason show on HBO. So what's the deal? Because that was the language they used in those times.
Right.
No one's saying that language is okay. It's just reflective of the time when these stories were written. Of course, let's hear what they're even saying is offensive. According to the UK's Telegraph newspaper, publisher HarperCollins has edited some passages and entirely removed others from its new digital editions of some of Christie's detective mysteries featuring Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. The amendments to the books published between 1920 and 1976, that's a big gap of years.
They're coming for Murder, She Wrote next.
Oh, it'll happen. It'll happen everything. The year of Christie's death include. I'm wondering when it's going to come. Those Star Wars expanded universe books. They're going to get to them at some point if they're going after Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would alter in those, but it includes change. Okay, anyway, includes changes to the narrator's inner monologue. For example, Poirot's description of another character as a Jew, of course, in Christie's debut novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, has been stripped out of the new version. Throughout the revised stories of the short story collection, Miss Marple's final cases, to other stories, the word native has been replaced with local, the Telegraph reports. So I guess native is bad now. A passage describing a servant as black and grinning has been revised, and the character is now simply referred to as nodding with no reference to his race. And in the 1937 novel Death on the Nile, references to Nubian people have been removed throughout. So what have they been replaced with? That's what I'm at. Okay.
Well, this kind of makes me think of somebody made an excellent point. All this problem we were having with mascots, where they got rid of Mrs. Butterworth, they got rid of Uncle Ben, they got rid of the Land O'Lakes Native American girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going after the Quaker Oats guy. They are literally erasing minority characters from everything. And you think this is a good thing? You think this is because it's offensive? It's offensive for you to even be represented anymore? You're being erased from history, people.
You make a point. And I'm not, and to be fair, these are the people at these companies doing it. Yeah. I don't know who specifically is ordering these erasures. Obviously, it's the people still holding on to
I do know that classical liberals in academia, people that work in libraries, people that care about literature, are getting really upset about this, saying this is bad. This is bad.
I'll give credit where credit is due. Even Whoopi Goldberg came out against the censoring of Ian Fleming. She said, "This is ridiculous. Don't do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that there's a line that she can draw, because she's gone pretty far.
I know.
But I'll tell you, what all this has made me think of is a book from my childhood. 1973, a book called Something Queer is Going On, a mystery. It was by Elizabeth Levy. And it was like one of those Scholastic Reader type books,
Right.
And again, queer did not have the connotation back then that it does now. Queer just meant strange. And I'm just wondering, when are they going to decide to change that? Honestly, this is one of those Mandelas here. Because I thought, back in the 80s or 90s, I thought somebody had changed the name of the book to Something Strange is Going On. And I'm like, that's stupid back then. But I can't find anywhere on the internet any reference to that. So maybe I'm just misremembering.
You mentioned that word, though, queer, as in reference to something that's odd or strange. We're going to get into the next article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just a segment. But Ursula K. Le Guin's, some of her books, the word queer is being removed and altered with something else. Even though I know that she was using it in the old-fashioned sense of just something that's out of place, strange. Yeah. This is need to get rid of the new Bud Light mascot. Laugh out loud. I don't know if we had anything for Dylan Mulvaney originally planned for this. But...
No, I said we should just not, because I think that's kind of outside of our wheelhouse. We focus more on entertainment than anything else.
That's definitely not entertainment. Let's go to the next article real quick, though, because it ties to this one.
It absolutely does.
This is a New York Times editorial. You can read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It'd take too long. But I found something in this article which I need to point out. It concerns Ursula K. Le Guin, who apparently is also getting her work censored now that she is no longer with us. I don't know what this is a trend of going after deceased authors now and altering the work. Okay, this is from this column. Theo Downs Le Guin, the son and literary executor of for Ursula Le Guin, the science fiction writer, was surprised when he got an email from a publisher late last year asking for permission to make changes to her children's series Cat Wings. First published in 1988, the book follows a group of kittens who were born with wings. At first, he was torn about whether he should approve the edits, which consisted of a handful of words across several books. Ursula was extremely careful with her words, so a substitute is never going to have exactly the same meaning, he said in an interview. He ultimately decided that the revisions would benefit readers. In the new editions, which will be released this fall by Simon & Schuster's Anthony books, a handful of words, including lame and dumb, have been replaced, and a note has been added to alert readers about the update. Hold on. This is his quote next. A little bit of language nuance is going to be lost, but something is also gained, Downs Le Guin said. What we gain is the potential to not give offense. I have never heard a more disgusting statement in regards to literature.
Yeah.
In fact, my first creative writing teacher. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, not only that, it is preposterous because it's impossible. You cannot communicate. You cannot say words that can't potentially cause offense to somebody, especially now that people are so flippin' tight-assed that they are looking to be offended. They are going out of their way to screw your words to make themselves offended when it's not even what you meant.
Also, in respects to this, definitions of words, people change the meanings of them, and then they get offended that this author who was living in a time when those meanings didn't get changed are now using these words. Anyway, my original point I was trying to make, though, was that I had a creative writing teacher, my first ever creative writing teacher, and she told the class something. This was like in the early 2000s, and she was kind of a cantankerous older lady, but she was a good teacher, and she said, if you haven't offended at least one person with your writing, you haven't done your job. That's what she told the class.
Yeah, I've heard
it's true.
I've heard people say that. I don't think that should be the intent. You shouldn't go, because some people take that too seriously.
No, I don't think it should ever be the intent.
Oh, no. I'm just saying that some people do take that as the intent. And if you do, you end up being Ryan Johnson. Honestly, he subscribes to that like Holy Writ.
I have taught creative writing at the university level before. I don't try to tout that too much in the stream, but I remember I had a rule in class. I did not want my students to be afraid to write about certain subjects or certain things. Yes, a student can write something that's in bad taste, but I also worry that the student would be afraid to take risks in their writing. by not touching on certain, because this is a conversation we can have about why this isn't working.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about being, oh, you're a bad person for writing that. I think that's ridiculous.
Well,
People take risks with writing all
I
the
had
time.
a creative writing teacher that never put it the way you just did, but I guess that was her intent. What she often did would say, okay, with this story, who is your audience? And I always had an answer, but it wasn't what I was thinking about as I was doing it. She said, you should always know who your audience is because that's who you're communicating to. Because I would write something and she'd say, this makes absolutely no sense. And then I would back up and give her the context and she'd go, okay, now I get you. You're not writing to me, you're writing to a sci-fi audience, or you're writing to people that know about this. Okay, I get you now.
Yes.
And so she said, as I go through this, you're going to need to explain some things to me that you wouldn't have to explain in the context of writing a story for that audience. I said, okay. And that taught me a great deal about writing. Far more than I think she may have even intended, Yeah. But there you go.
No, in fact, they even say when you submit to publications like, magazines or fiction, if they still exist, you want to also become familiar with the types of things that they publish. You have to know who the audience of the editor is going to be, what they're looking
And honestly, I feel like that's kind of part of the problem with the entertainment industry today. Because I don't think that the entertainment industry knows who their audience is anymore.
This is ridiculous, though. This is Ursula K. Le Guin. And now they're finding her words offensive. This is ridiculous. It's not going to end. They're just going to keep going after every single author and forcing them to change words. This was talked about in 1984.
Yep.
You had a.
That's going to be the irony when they start rewriting 1984.
Yeah, go after Orwell next. I'd like to see that. Let's see what happens there. Put your newspeak in his book. All right, let's move on.
And Fahrenheit 451 while we're at it. I mean, that's what this is. This really is Fahrenheit 451 come to life.
In some ways, this is more insidious, though, because in Fahrenheit 451 they just banned the whole text, and they're changing it little by little.
Yeah, that's true.
What if they just keep changing the text every 5 years? Oh, this word's offensive. This word's offensive. You could end up with a version of the text that is completely unrelated to the original work.
Yeah. Well, this is why I'm telling everyone, and I always used to believe there was always going to be time, right? I've been wanting to read Ian Fleming, the original novels. I had a couple of them. I was like, there'll always be time.
Yeah.
Not so much. Netter literally went and got me every single, well, with the exception of one. She hasn't gotten yet. She got me every one of the James Bond novels so that I can read them.
You got them all now.
You got me Casino Royale?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that one had come. Okay. So I have them all now. Well, that's what I was waiting for, because you got to start with the first one, right?
It's interesting when you read Casino Royale, you ought to realize that Bond is already a seasoned. Yes. Already had a seasoned career as a spy when the movie begins. He wasn't starting out. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the way those kinds of stories should be. Kind of. Huh? Sorry. Did I lose you? Hello?
Oh, hold on one second.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I had to mute for a sec.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what it seemed like what they were trying to do with Indiana Jones, right? Indiana Jones, he's clearly had adventures in the past that we haven't seen. It's like we're coming in and medias res, right? And I think the intent was always supposed to be this serialized thing where Indiana Jones just has another adventure. And then we get to the next movie and we have another adventure. Somewhere along the way, they decided that, only Harrison Ford could play Indiana Jones and he was going to get older and, it all hinged on that. But anyway, James Bond is the way it should be. He had stories before Casino Royale, and there would be stories afterwards, and they could be played by someone else because There's always going to be more stories to tell, but the character's never going to age, you know? Deleted Scenes is right, though. Remember these 4 words: we will not comply. And that's why, you know, I'm always saying, you know, own physical media. Doesn't matter if they change it. We have the originals. And I'm drawing on Fahrenheit 451 here. Become the book. Memorize the book. Well, you don't have to do that. You could just own the physical copy. They're not coming into our house to burn it, you know? If they do that, that's going to be a whole different story. That's going to be a Moulin Labe situation for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't go any further into that.
Let's
not on your
save
channel.
This last
anyway.
article. Maybe, yeah, let's save this last article for next week. What do you say for Sunday?
Yeah, because I could have some things to say about that, and I think it'll keep.
This will go on for another half hour, but we'll definitely do it next Sunday. Okay, we'll talk about it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I think that. Thank you guys for putting up with us and for coming in a day later.
And always remember, if you guys can't stay with us the whole time, you know, just you know, come back and pick up where you left off the next day or whatever. You know, just like with a book, put the bookmark in, close it up, pick it up the next day.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this has been Geeky Geezers. Thank you for tuning in. What you have going on this week, Troy?
Yeah. Let's go through it. So
I think I'm first actually with Wednesday.
You're first, and I was told that for sure this is happening. So this Wednesday is definitely the LA Confidential watch party over on Soundtracks with Birdman. There's the link.
Yes.
This time for sure.
That's sounds perfect. Yes, definitely this weekend. Lady Miss, well, thank you for showing up. I didn't realize you were here, but thank you.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
I don't
kind
think,
of focused.
And what else is going on this week?
Well, then Thursday, Netter's having Netter's going to be having a very, very special guest, Loki's Morning of Mischief with Stone Loki.
I'll be having up the link shortly.
She'll have the link up shortly. I was hoping to have the link to drop right away. You've got a Blue Wrench. You can drop it in the chat if you get it up before we're done. But that's Thursday. Loki's Good People. I think most everyone here knows him. But if you don't, he's got he should be your regular morning coffee while you work channel. He's Good People, and he's one of those bigger channels that likes to support the smaller guys because he remembers where he came from, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely, and I'll try to tune into that too if I can.
Good.
That sounds like a good show. I like Loki's Mornings of Mischief. That's cool.
Yep.
And Friday.
Friday, we are going over the rainbow to the dark side of the moon with Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge After Dark and Stephen Deleted Scenes Otten, and we will be watching The Wizard of Oz synced up with the dark side of the moon. They call it sometimes Dark Side of the Rainbow or the Dark Side of Oz. And Tom's going to be there as our subject matter expert on Pink Floyd. Stephen Otten's going to be there, maybe not as a Wizard of Oz specialist, but definitely an old Hollywood expert, and I'm sure he'll have a great deal to contribute to as well. But he has told me he has never actually seen The Wizard of Oz all the way through in one sitting, so this will be his opportunity.
I've said it a number of times.
And but yeah, and what's great about this is, as you know, as you guys know, when I do a watch party, I'll give you a link so that I can host the film for you on a separate platform, and this is the best way to do it because this is kind of a custom job here, syncing up Dark Side of the Moon with The Wizard of Oz, and if you don't get it exactly right, we're all going to have a very different experience. So that'll be this Friday. Looking forward to that. Been wanting to do this for a long time.
Gotcha.
Which brings us up
And
to Saturday. Yeah. With Big Al's Films with Friends, going back to 1950 with the classic film Harvey. That's another one where I'll be hosting the film off platform so that you can watch along with us. But that one is a classic. If you don't have it in your home library, you really, really should. Jimmy Stewart. It's a great film.
And that brings us to Sunday, which will
And
have
that brings
deleted
us
scenes. We'll
around
be
to
doing it.
Sunday with deleted scenes and is unscripted. I think he's up to episode 10. And that's 7 Central, 8 Eastern as a lead into Geeky Geezers, which will be back on Sunday,
Which we will,
regular time.
and we'll be talking about D&D story. We'll have a D&D story for you at least. Okay.
Yeah. Have we done a?
Tune in
Have we
next
done?
week.
Have we done
What?
good old days about Dungeons and Dragons?
We have, but I could probably find a new way to spin it.
Okay, we'll think about
Maybe
it.
we can talk about the game. Maybe we can talk about the game Dungeon.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah.
I'll think of something.
Okay.
We could
Whatever.
do that if you want.
We got a week to think it through.
All right. We'll think about it.
Yep.
All right. Y'all have a good week, and we will see you next Sunday.
Check out my link.
Take care.
Take care, y'all.
I see
Bye-bye.
it. There's Netter's link. Tune in
There's
to it. Subscribe.
a link to Thursday's
Bye-bye.
things. Make sure you follow. Bye.